Welcome back, everybody, to the Brazilian Dragon podcast. It is episode 200. As London Tipton once said, yay me. Congrats to myself. My name is Felipe. I'm the titular Brazilian Dragon, and today we got something super special planned for you all. Walt Disney World attraction bracket, and I brought in some iconic Disney fans. You know her from a couple appearances that she's had on the Brazilian Dragon so far. It is Mel Got Served. Mel, welcome back.
Hi, thanks for having me back. What a magical day.
I'm so excited you're here. What is your favorite Disney snack? Let's start with that as your introduction questions.
Oh, it's always a Dole Whip.
A Dole Whip. Awesome,
A Dole Whip
awesome.
floats, if we're going to be very specific. Dole Whip float.
Thank you for the specificity. And making their Brazilian Dragon debut, we got one of the co-hosts of the Choir Room and the Diary Room. It is Matt Ligori. Matt, welcome to the Brazilian Dragon.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Couldn't think of a more fun topic to jump in with. I'm just realizing as we get started. So, Dancing with the Stars had Disney night the other day, a couple days ago, and I had the whole room back here decked out with all the Disney plush that we have, and I took it down because I forgot that I was doing this. Obviously should have left it up, so that's my fault. But still happy to be here.
Yes, and what is your favorite Disney snack?
I look for the best chocolate chip cookie in any park that we go to. So, Magic Kingdom, usually go to the confectionery. You get the Jack Jack cookies in Hollywood Studios. Epcot has a couple good cookies around the World Showcase. So, any of those, whichever one is the best of the trip. I haven't gotten to Gideon's yet, though. So that's something I need to work on.
Oh,
It's
Mel's
such a long
judging you.
wait.
Yeah. And also making his Brazilian Dragon debut, it is the iconic, phenomenal Jonathan Foreman. JoFo, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I would like do a pan over so we can show you the Disney part of it, but I don't
Yeah, they're
think
they're over
that
there now.
yeah, they're over there, but I don't think that the rest of the house is presentable enough right now
No.
to do it. So
It's
sorry to
all good.
disappoint.
As long as you tell me what your favorite Disney snack is, we'll be okay. Yeah.
So my favorite Disney snack is actually probably in Disneyland, which shouldn't be a huge surprise, but the churro toffee that they have in Disneyland is definitely tops for me.
Yes. Well, that is a great starting point for my first question. What is your backstory with the Disney Parks franchise? Is it a franchise? Yeah. Yeah. Theme
Sure.
parks. Yeah. So who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Yeah.
So, I grew up in California. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, which meant that for 6 straight years in middle school and high school, through both concert band and then marching band, we went to Disneyland. So I became very familiar with the parks that way, fell in love with the parks. My family, I had family who grew up in Florida, and whenever we went, my mom was obsessed with the parks out there. So we would go to Disney World and took a break. But then when Matt and I started dating, I couldn't get away from it. So got back in the fold, and now here we are.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I'm very jealous of the people who got to go to like Disney regularly as part of a school trip. That I'm very jealous. What was your instrument again?
I played clarinet.
Clarinet.
I did
Yes.
too, but I never got to
Oh,
go. I did not get to go to Disney because they like alternated years for
Oh,
band of who got to go to Florida. So unfortunately, I went to, no disrespect to all of our Canadian pals, but I got to just go to Toronto. And that was like pre-Degrassi or like pre-Degrassi that we liked. So there wasn't even any like iconic thing for me to be excited about.
oh.
Yeah. Wait, so then instead of Disney, you went to Toronto, but how did you end up going to Disney? Like, how did you get into the Disney World shenanigans?
Okay, I know I went as like a toddler. My parents took me. But I don't remember any of that, but they tell me all about it. And I have some of the souvenirs. I have actually have it still. I have like a book that's like a Disney parks book. And it was like just about like we're breaking ground on this new park and we're calling it MGM Studios. And it's like very exciting.
Yeah.
But then I didn't go. I went like as a teenager once we did as a road trip. And then I didn't go until I was like an adult. And I really think that that Travel Channel propaganda worked like a charm. Like all those travel videos with
Stacy?
Samantha, whatever her name is. I was like dying to go. So then started to go as a Disney adult more so, like from every once in a while and went with different groups of friends and have gone solo. So I just like to go. It's when I go on vacation, I'm very much a tourist. I like to stay busy. I like to do stuff. I like to explore. Disney's the best part of that because there's just always something new and it's nonstop. Like you're not resting. And if you do, like I give you kudos if you can sit still at Disney.
Yeah, like the people who spend most of their trips at the resort part of it, I'm like wild. Like I'm always
Yeah.
in the parks. Like I try not to take a day off
When someone
because
says pool day, I'm like, I admire you.
Yeah, good for you.
yeah. And then Matt, what about you?
I've been going my whole life. Honestly, whenever we would have any kind of family trip vacation, it was really just only to Disney. I think we did one cruise once. Well, I know we did one cruise once, but I'm saying I think that was the only non-Disney trip that
Yep.
I took throughout my childhood. Probably, I don't know, two or three trips. Whenever, my parents could save up enough that we would all be able to go, we would all go. And then as I got older, went like two or three times with my best friend. Eventually, as Jonathan mentioned, once we started dating, we went once and then we ended up in Disneyland as well. And then we ended up back in Disney World, as often as we've been able to make it work. Because it's just, it's for those that get it. Anyone that's going to be
Yeah.
listening to this podcast, you get it. It's like the best adult playground that you can go to. And I love like I say this all the time to people. I love like the game aspect of it, the fact that you can go and try to get all the lightning lanes and get on all the rides and see how much you can do within the time limit that you have. So, and it's just a comfortable place that when you go often enough, like the back of your hand, and it's just like, well, if I'm gonna go somewhere, I may as well just go back to Disney. So
Yeah. And then in terms of I know Jonathan mentioned Disneyland. Is your primary experiences for Mel and Matt both more Disney World?
yeah, for me,
Yeah.
yes.
Um,
I've split a bit more. I've done a few Disneyland trips, not as much as Disney World, but I've done Disneyland a few days. Actually, for the 60th anniversary, I did the 24 hours at Disneyland day,
ooh.
which was both the most magical and worst day one could have. We got pretty much trapped in California Adventure around probably the afternoon or so. And then it just kept getting more crowded and more crowded. And then everything was like a 3 hour wait. And I mean, like, food was a wait. The rides were like, we could do anything. So the only ride, like, I remember we went on at a certain point was we went on the Bugs Life like choo choo train, which is like you would go through the fruit and it would like smell like fruit and which is now gone, rest in peace. But I have fond memories. But we were all getting really tired and cranky and hangry. And then at I think about 3 in the morning, they reopened the other gate and we could all go to Disneyland. And that was nice because
Oh,
then we were just really mad because we were like, we only got to go to like 3 or 4 rides initially because we were park hopping. But to go on like Pirates of the Caribbean at like 3:30 in the morning and it was just like, oh, pure joy. So it was definitely an experience. I don't think I would do it again, but
Yeah. That's someone. Yeah, as a LA resident these days, like I have spent a little bit more time lately in Disneyland. I haven't been to Disney World. Uh, what year was Big Brother 20? Because I remember that was on at the same time. Whatever that year was. So like it feels like 6 or 7 years
2018?
ago.
Yeah,
2018. Thank you.
2018.
So 6 years, and yeah, it would be like something every few years. We would go like maybe every 3 or 4 years. Um, I remember my aunt from Brazil, like we went with her in one year when I was like 14 and did like a whole like family reunion sort of thing there.
ooh.
That was stressful. But it's just like the happiest place on earth. And it really is. Like you're just having a good time going on rides. I like what Matt said about like you can make it a game, like the strategic minded aspects
I
of why we
mean,
like the shows
yeah.
we like you can gamify it. Um, like and there's something for everyone, I feel like. Even when I went with my grandparents when I was like in fourth grade, 9 years old, like I think they found stuff to enjoy like at the park that was different than what like 9 year old me was excited about. My first Disney experience, like Mel, I don't really remember much of it, but was Disneyland Paris. My dad and
Ooh,
I
ooh
have
la
a photo with
la.
Pluto. I don't remember much of it, but that is like one day I would love to like hit all the Disneys around the world. That would be fun. Like
That's the
Tokyo.
goal.
Yeah.
Tokyo's my goal for this year. A friend and I, she's actually a Disneyland aficionado. We've talked about it and we've always talked about going to Japan. We said this is the year. So
So two
let's do
months.
it. Gosh, I just been trying to figure out what's the healthy balance to make sure you take in like that there is a lot more to Japan than just Tokyo Disney,
Yeah.
but also there's so much to do there. And I know also their lines are longer. They have a lot of rules. It seems like a very complicated system, but apparently that is also like the Disney parks way at this point is find a vacation, make it 80 times harder. So I guess it's good to like exercise my brain to
Yeah.
figure out how to just go on a ride and not wait for 7 hours.
And you meant like this year as in 2024 or
Oh,
2025?
sorry, 2025. Sorry.
I was gonna be like,
Calendar year.
yeah.
Or
Um,
no, whatever, fiscal year. Who cares? Uh,
well,
saving up.
I feel like we should probably get into the bracket because I'm sure we'll have like discussions that can come through that. But I will moderate and you all can fight unless like we are at a standstill, then I will decide because I'm here. I want to hear you all. I'll definitely like insert my opinions if like we get there, but I'm excited. Now, did you look at the bracket? I know Mel said that she was trying to save some of her takes for the podcast, so she didn't really like look at it too deeply. But
Yeah,
did
that was my thing too. I didn't really
okay,
want to like study it too much, so I kind of like glanced at it, but I'm like, let me get a fresh
yeah.
jumping in point when we start.
For the listeners of the podcast, basically how I made the bracket was I tried to give an even distribution and tried to come up with like 16 things from each park, and I had to make some difficult cuts. And then I couldn't get to 16 that I felt like strongly about from each park, so then I kind of filled in the gap with anything left over from the Magic Kingdom. And then I randomized it instead of seeding it. So I know Matt loves a randomization. Uh,
Yep.
and his lovely co-host sometimes calls him Matt Rigori
How dare
because
you?
of it. But that is not happening on this podcast. I expect some devastating first round defeats and some sneaks getting into future rounds because of matchups. But let's get into this. I'm gonna pull up the bracket. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so let's
indeed.
start with the Mad Tea Party from Magic Kingdom versus Voyage of the Little Mermaid from Hollywood Studios, formerly MGM Studios, as Mel mentioned. Um, Jonathan, let's start with you here.
So this is, just to be clear, the Voyage of the Little Mermaid show. So the stage show,
Yes,
not the
not
ride in
the,
Magic Kingdom. Right.
yeah.
So what we're gonna learn here today as we go through this bracket is I don't like spinning. Um, s-
You could say
uh,
we.
I
well,
don't,
I
this
don't want
might
to
be
speak for
a
any.
triple threat. I also dislike spinning.
Yeah, so I don't want to speak for anybody here, but this is a very easy one for me.
Yeah.
One, because I love The Little Mermaid. It's one of my favorite movies of, one of my favorite Renaissance era Disney movies. The music, it's all bangers except in the new one, no bangers. Um,
You're not a
so
scuttlebutt rap person?
I'm not a scuttlebutt rap person. I can get into my take about Lin-Manuel Miranda and Disney movies, but we'll do that maybe later on. But this one's very easy for me. It's Voyage to the Little Mermaid.
Awesome. Matt, where do you stand?
Yeah, no, this one is not hard at all. I don't even know if I've been on the Mad Tea party in any single teacup in my adult Disney life. I might have gone on as a kid, but you won't catch me doing that and ruining my day by spinning on a teacup anytime soon. And yeah, again, this is the stage show, which has been gone for a little bit, but is coming back. And that was a good show.
Yeah,
I'm glad that I think the theater got like
moldy or
totally,
something.
yeah, like
Yeah.
moldy or something during the pandemic or something like that. So they're trying to revamp it and bring it back, and they just pushed it back recently. So it's going to be even longer until it is actually back. But I will take any show over spinning in a teacup. So sorry to Alice in Wonderland.
And then Mel, are you sweeping it?
So actually, not sweeping it. Now, here's the thing. I don't love the Magic Tea Party personally. I will go on it every once in a while. I'm also what you will call a Disney completist, which is I will continue to go on rides that physically pain me that I don't even like that much sometimes just to do it, but more so rides over the shows. I saw The Voyage of the Little Mermaid. I think one time I liked it. I don't remember a ton of it. I know it's the plot of the movie, so I do know that part of it. But there's something just like very iconic about the Mad Tea Party. Um, I don't like the Florida version as much as I like the California version. I think there's something nicer about it being outside, but there's something sweet about it. And the thing about Mad Tea Party compared to also like other attractions is every once in a while you do get to see characters ride it, which is quite adorable. And I think that there's like kind of nothing more magical than the idea of like your family just gets on this ride and suddenly you look over and like Tigger wants to sit in the ride with you. Like I think of that a lot. It's never been me. It never will be me because I probably won't go on it.
Remember when
Uh,
the video went viral of Kim Kardashian and her family getting the ride to themselves in Disneyland for the
yes.
teacups, and people were so mad because they had to wait for the whole Kardashian family to go on.
And it's so sad because it is like better with people, but the pro is you can control your amount of spin, which helps. So usually if I am going on it, I'm not touching that spinning wheel. But I
Yeah.
technically vote Mad Tea Party, but it's not like a strong way either way for me for this one.
Yeah, so I love a good stage show. Like, well, I feel like we'll come through some of these throughout the bracket, but um like this one I feel kind of like it's very balanced. I feel like this is like one that I could go either way depending on the day. I think for me if I was actually like if I had an agenda with this bracket, I feel like my thinking would be, what is the thing that I need to hit? Like if I am going to Disney World and I can only pick one of these rides before I leave, which one do I have to hit? That's kind of what I'm thinking as my criteria. Um, but I think I would also pick Voyage, but it's not super swayed over it. Like because like you really I think it's the best Little Mermaid production out there because I don't think The Little Mermaid's currently on Broadway right now, right? So, yeah. Uh, with that, the Mad Tea Party has been evicted from the bracket, to quote Matt's other podcast. Um, and yeah, let's move on to the next round, and we'll come back to this momentarily. But this one is gonna break my heart either way. Space Mountain versus the Mini Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Let's start with Mel. Let's go in reverse order.
So I will never forgive the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh in Walt Disney World for getting rid of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride for a subpar, boring ride. The Pooh in California is a fun little adventure. I hear the one in Tokyo is like one of the best rides ever. This ride to me sucks. I go on it because, again, I am a completist. And I say this as someone who actually doesn't even like Space Mountain that much because I find it physically painful, but I always go on it. Space Mountain is iconic. It feels a lot scarier and faster than it is. I always think I'm going to get scalped on the ride, even though I'm sure it's not even close. But you, as much as you might have a back pain afterwards of going on Space Mountain, it's worth it. It's tradition. So I'm voting Space Mountain.
Space Mountain it is. Yeah, for me, the one that really hurts is the Matterhorn. That's a Disneyland
Yeah,
exclusive.
that's
But
our
That
equivalent
didn't hurt
here.
me as much. Because when I went to Disneyland a couple last year, it was my first time there, and I expected to have some pain afterwards. I didn't feel it.
Jonathan
I
seemed
was one
like
of the
he
lucky
disagrees.
ones.
I did not feel good after the Matterhorn this most recent time. Are we going with Matt next or with me
Yeah, let's
next?
go, Matt. We'll go in reverse order of the first
Um,
round.
I am sticking with Mel here. Space Mountain is just the iconic attraction, one of the iconic attractions of Magic Kingdom, where as I've gotten older, I've started to like, and you'll see that trend throughout a lot of the roller coasters that are going to be on this bracket. They've fallen out of favor with me because they don't make me feel good, and I want to feel good the entire day that I'm going to be at the parks for 12, 14 hours. So yeah, I try to avoid them, but every once in a while, it's like every 2 or 3 trips, I need to make sure I don't complete. I'm not a completionist within the one trip. Like it sounds like maybe Mel is. Like I don't need to do every single thing while I'm there. Like if I know that I did Space Mountain last time, then I'm not doing it this time. Every so often, I just need to make sure that I check it off. And Pooh is cute, but there's not enough there for me to say that it should advance over Space Mountain.
You don't have the beef that Mel does about
I don't have the beef. I did get to go on Mr. Toad's in Disneyland, so I at least got to experience a version of it. And I don't have like the attachment to it and from a nostalgia perspective because I never went on Mr. Toad's, or if I did, it was as a child and I don't remember it at all. So yeah, no, just I get
uh,
it, but it's not my beef.
Listen, not many rides in the Disney parks right now allow you to go on a drunk driving voyage to hell. So I want you to keep that in mind of how
Well,
amazing that was.
who does kind of feel like that at times? Like
Yeah,
The
true.
Tigger hopping is, yeah.
you
And
do
I
kind
would
of feel like
say,
you're on something.
if I were going to compare Winnie the Pooh to something else that I think is superior, I finally experienced the Cat in the Hat ride at Universal Studios, and it
Hmm.
was life changing. It is so
It's
unhinged.
adorable.
I want to go on it every day of my life. It is so bizarre. I got on that ride and I was like, I didn't know there were jump scares because it was so silly. And that to me is like kind of what Pooh's going for because you get to that like Heffalump and Woozles part. I like the
Mhm.
song. I like the blacklight. It's just me.
Thing one and thing two, they really cause havoc.
They really do. They tried to kill you too. It's just a really good combination of what Mr. Toad was and what Winnie the Pooh is.
Hmm.
It's like a fever dream version of the combo.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't remember the Cat in the Hat ride. I went on it once when I was like 9. And I definitely need to make my way back to like Universal in Florida.
Yes,
Um,
or look it up on TikTok because people posted it there. It
but yeah,
By
is,
the end of this
TikTok and
bracket, you're
YouTube.
gonna have your trip booked, I'm sure.
Yes. Oh
yeah.
my God. Honestly, like I feel like a group hang at Disney, iconic. So if you're ever in LA, hit me up. We'll go to Disneyland.
I don't know how there hasn't been
RHAP and
RHAP. Exactly. I don't know how
yeah.
there hasn't been yet.
Honestly, there hasn't been a Florida event, I don't think. Yeah. So Florida,
Well,
I don't know if we want to go to Florida, but for Disney specifically,
yeah.
um, might just be me, Matt, Jonathan, Mel.
Yeah.
Jonathan, are you
Couple more.
sweeping the Space Mountain or are you
Yeah,
giving
yeah,
a
this one's a
vote?
sweep. So Matt and I were last at Magic Kingdom, the last trip we went for the Halloween party for Mickey's Not So Scary, where they have a Space Mountain overlay, which is in the pitch dark. So instead of having the lights,
Oh,
it is just dark in there, which makes it hurt a lot more. But also, it makes it feel a lot not scary because it's not scary, but it makes it feel a lot, faster and the turns come out literally out of nowhere. And so I recommend if you're ever in Magic Kingdom for the Halloween season of August to October,
Yeah.
to hit up a not so scary. But definitely a Space Mountain sweep here. I'm not a Winnie the Pooh person. I didn't grow up with Winnie the Pooh, and the
Y'all are
ride
some
is
haters.
is just
he
meh.
was Winnie the Pooh was a huge thing in the 90s, and I don't know where it
Oh
came
yeah.
from. What was the in like what it what instigate? Because it wasn't like there was a I don't think there was really like a show or a movie. Just all of a sudden, that was like the it character
Hmm.
to wear around. And I will
I
say
I was part of the
to
problem.
tag off a JoFo too about Space Mountain in reverse. I've gone on the Christmas party Space Mountain more often the last couple of years, which I actually think makes it a worse version of the ride because it's too bright. They do like the red and green lights, which in theory is really fun, but you actually just see it's not like space lights, it's just like strobes. So you actually see more of the track.
So you see where you're
Um,
going. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, oh, look, this is like when you see Space Mountain with the lights on, the first time you see it, you're like, wow, that's so cool. But the more you look at it, you're like, this thing is so janky looking.
Yeah.
Like, how is it not going to fall apart? So when you can see it when you're on it, it just doesn't feel the same. Pitch black sounds phenomenal.
But
Hey,
that
did that
does
voice?
also continue to give Space Mountain extra points because there's so many different cool things about it as well. Like you talked about,
Yes.
Mel, feeling like your head's going to get chopped off, the music, when you are on another attraction that you can be on while the lights are on. And, if you go through, you feel like struck gold. So it's got a lot going for it, even though it still makes you not feel great.
Yeah,
Right.
I went on it during Star Wars week in Disneyland in 2022. The one time I got COVID was from Disneyland with
Oh,
Yeah.
that trip. But
Same.
Hyperspace Mountain for that, they also like did some cool stuff. It was like that was like my favorite experience with Space Mountain as an adult. But I like
It's
the Winnie the Pooh
timeless.
ride. I like the Winnie the Pooh ride. I am the Disney adult that will go on it, even if it's just me, myself, and I at the
I
end of the
mean,
day.
But the
5 minute
California
line.
one is good. Like Disneyland's is a good ride.
and
So
also, if I
I
have
get
the
it.
option, if you tell me that I can only do one ride left in the day, I'm going on Winnie the Pooh over Space Mountain. But like the way that I'm kind of approaching this is like, I don't know, if one of
It's
them
more
had to go away
iconic. Yeah.
forever,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, okay, Pooh can go. But, I would much rather relax on Pooh for, 7 minutes
Yeah.
than lose my, I don't know,
Yeah.
feeling in my body.
But yeah, I was definitely part of the problem in the 90s because like I think Winnie the Pooh like there was like TV shows and like a lot of like direct
Boo
to
Boy.
movies. Yeah, I watched VHS Piglet's big movie featuring a soundtrack written by Sheryl Crow. We'd love to see it. It's Big Brother 3,
That's
Sheryl
so
Crow.
random.
Yeah. Um all right. Should we just like do Voyage of the Little Mermaid versus Space Mountain?
Yeah.
Let's do
Yeah,
that.
why
So
not?
Matt, do you want to start this one?
I mean, first of all, we've been talking about Space Mountain being iconic, so that obviously gives it extra points, but also Voyage disappearing for the last 5 years, you can't make it that far into a bracket like this. So I think it's got to be Space Mountain.
Yes. Jonathan, where do you stand?
I'm same outcome for the same reason. Maybe when Voyage comes back and it's revamped, if it's all great and good, maybe we can reconsider. But for now, it's got to be Space Mountain.
Mel, are you sweeping it?
Absolutely. I didn't even remember that Voyage of the Little Mermaid show had closed. And if we're talking about the future expansions that they had announced this year at D23, I truly hope that this Monsters Inc. expansion, which I'm very excited about, is going where Little Mermaid is and not where Muppets is. And so if I have to root for an area's demise, then I guess it probably shouldn't move along in the bracket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I would also vote for Space Mountain here. But I think it was a sign to me that I didn't even realize Voyage of the Little Mermaid was closed just until I was like doing research for this bracket. I was like, oh, didn't know that. Whereas like I feel like you would hear Space Mountain was closed.
You also can't really tell if you're like walking around the park. If I had no knowledge of what goes on in the park and I was just walking down Sunset Boulevard and you see the sign, I would be like, oh, let me go see the show and then stand outside for forever until nobody opens the door to let me in
Yeah.
because you can't really tell.
And then you're told it's been closed for 4.5 years.
Right. And they still have
Did this
signs up
happen to you?
everywhere. No, but it just like is very like the sign is still up. I'm like, take the
Yeah.
sign down.
Yeah.
There's nobody's home.
I also will talk about this one later. I didn't realize Stitch had closed. And apparently they
That's
had the
been
sign
even
up there for
longer.
like
You
a
got to get
year.
back to Disney World.
Yeah.
I guess
Uh,
that's what's nice though. If like you said, you only go like every few years, that when you go, even there's like so much more change that like no matter where you go, it's going to be exciting. Versus for me, I was talking about going and I felt like I had to go. Like I always feel like I have to go to Magic Kingdom, but I felt like if I go, I have to go to Magic Kingdom because I have to go to the newest attraction, which would be Tiana, which would force my hand on some other things.
yeah. Um, Yeah, we definitely I can talk more about the IP later and like the future of the parks, maybe like at the end of the bracket for sure, for what we would be sacrificing. But I'm curious to see if has other like opponents that she's like, okay, this is my threat to the Muppets. You can go over the Muppets. And um let's move on to the next part of the bracket, which is Expedition Everest versus Indiana Jones, the Epic Stunt Show Spectacular. Let's start with Jonathan here.
All right. So I'm going with what Mel said earlier of ride over show. That's ultimately my tiebreaker here because I think these are both good, really good attractions. But Everest is unique in the parks. You get to go backwards. Can't beat that. Um, and it's also just it's a good ride. It's not IP based, which not saying anything that's not IP based automatically wins, but it's not IP based, which is great. And this Epic Stunt Spectacular, even though it does have the nostalgia of being one of the only close to original in Hollywood studios of when I was growing up, I still think Expedition Everest gets the win here.
Mhm. Mel, where are you leaning?
I'm also going Expedition Everest. JoFo called it out really well. Not having IP is just so rare now. And I know this was done in a time before it, but the fact that it's still untouched and it's one of those things that they haven't tried to even just like shoehorn a character in. The queue is also amazing, which I think is something else to give a huge perk that you don't feel as bad waiting there. It's also a nice mix of indoor outdoor. So for the Florida heat, it's not bad. Indiana Jones, I've only gone to one time, and that's sometimes I think about with the shows, which are what are shows that like I will continuously go see versus I haven't done it, so I'm doing it, or just like I'm using it for the air conditioning. And Indiana Jones was fun, but I think most of the fun of it is simply remembering that episode of Full House when the
Yeah.
Tanners went, and then DJ thinks it's
Steve,
Steve at the
no.
end. So most of the appeal is me going,
Oh my
wanting to stand up in
God.
the crowd and yell Steve. But
I
besides
forgot about
that, yeah.
that.
That's all I think about that attraction. I don't remember anything else except it did go viral. I want to say in the last year because the Indiana Jones stuntman did get run over by the Rock.
Oh no.
I think he's alive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's okay.
yeah.
Yeah, but
That's
yeah,
that's most important.
Expedition Everest really cool, really unique coaster.
Yeah,
And,
I'll
save
make it
the
a
Yeti if
sweep
you could.
here.
A
It's a
sweep,
sweep.
as you
Um,
should. This is the correct take.
it's not necessarily Everest praise per se. I do think it's a good ride and the backwards is fun. And I don't know if I even remember a time where the Yeti worked. I just have heard all about the Yeti that doesn't work anymore. Um, the stunt spectacular, it's not even the best stunt show that Hollywood Studios has had, as Mel shakes her head, agreeing with me. The backlot tour and the lights motor action show that also doesn't exist anymore, that got replaced by Star Wars Land, was so cool and so fun and so many fun effects there, that I don't know. I would take that over Indiana Jones any day. Indiana Jones is one of those that like I don't think I've seen in my last three trips. It's like I know
Yeah.
I will sometime soon maybe try to make time for it. It's the kind of trip, the kind of attraction where I need to have 7 to 8 days at the parks to be like I can prioritize giving this one some time because otherwise there's just no need.
That yeah, it's like Lower priority if you've seen it for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, pour one out for the epic the stunt shows, the lights, motors, action. The backlot tour, like as a kid, I loved, but as an adult, I'm like, oh, this is basically the Universal tour. Like,
Yeah, it was definitely a copycat.
yeah, with the waves, I'm sure Jonathan has spent time at the Universal tour before as well. But yeah, and then our next one, this is I didn't know how to. I didn't want to put each individual country, so I just put the countries
Very
experience.
broad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
World
this is a
Showcase
huge thing.
countries. And versus Beauty and the Beast live on stage from Hollywood Studios. Mel, let's start with you.
Okay. Continuing my trend here. Obviously, I go to probably a Hollywood studio show once every few years. I actually, the last trip I went on, I don't recall going to any shows. So I've probably done all of these shows on here one time exactly. I like Indiana Jones. I know I saw in like 2007. That's when I saw it. Beauty and the Beast was a cute show. I don't need to ever see it again. World Showcase is a true delight. I love Epcot. I love going to World Showcase. I love food festivals there. I feel that it's the best place to eat in all the parks, especially when it's a festival because there's so many like little things you can have, and you can just have like little noshes throughout the day. I do like being able to stop in and see like their gift shops and unique brands and things, and see people from around the world working there. So I'm gonna go with World Showcase.
Matt, where do you stand on this?
I'm a little mad at you because you didn't have to set Beauty and the Beast up like this, but you did. Beauty and the Beast is one of my favorite Disney movies and shows and all of the above. So I love to see it. It's also, I see it kind of every other time. If I can, because it's like I know that it's like seeing. I mean, some people on this call probably would not mind seeing their favorite movie over and over again. But yeah, but I don't need to do it every single time I'm there. So it's a very good show, a very concise 30-minute telling of Beauty and the Beast, and it's all done so well. It was very funny during COVID. Belle and Beast had to stay 6 feet apart during the show. So like towards the end of it, when Belle comes rushing over to Beast after he's been stabbed by Gaston, and she has to stay 6 feet away is insane. But that's not now. World Showcase, obviously, moving on. I'm not even like the biggest eater and drinker around the world, but just like existing in the showcase and walking around to all the different countries and just getting to see everything. I haven't been to any of those countries except for the United States and Canada. So just to at least have a little taste of what goes on there, or what it looks like, or meeting some of the people, like Mel said, is great. So
Yeah, no, this one was like, oh, I do love Beauty and the Beast live on stage, but I mean, Epcot, that is like half of the draw of Epcot is the countries. And Jonathan, where are you leaning here?
So I love some live theater. I love Broadway shows. Beauty and the Beast is the closest thing we get to that in the parks, or not the second closest thing we get to that in the parks, I should say. Um,
what's
and I
one?
Lion King, we'll get there.
Oh,
Um,
well,
I was like,
I was
it's
also
not
thinking
quite.
Finding Nemo, but
Yeah. Oh.
I don't count that.
Oh.
But I mean, the rendition of uh Be Our Guest in the Beauty and the Beast live show is like it's incredible. Like it's not something you would expect to see at a theme park. Um, like just the choreography and the vocals and all that. It's great. Um, but World Showcases, I think, it's not an attraction per se, but it's maybe probably the most impressive thing that exists in the parks. Um, just when you think about it as a concept that there's what 11 countries where like you have some of the countries that are actually worked on by people from the who were sent over to work on the design, and it's good representations, and you have food, you have drink, you have authentic cultural cuisine. It's it's up there in terms of like what Disney can do and doesn't really do anymore with their new stuff. So I mean, I think it's got to be World Showcase for me
They
in
ever
this
get rid of
matchup.
the countries, I will cry. Like that is, I mean, Epcot is my favorite part. I should have asked this earlier. What's everyone's favorite park? But Epcot is my favorite park, and I think primarily like the countries. Like I like the future stuff also, but the countries is where it's at. Like, I mean, just stepping foot in the Mexico Pavilion, you feel like you're in a different world, and that is the case with all 11 of them. Um, And I like the fact that like I don't like that some of the rides are probably gonna get closed and repurposed with different IP, but like these can still work with IP in some
Oh
capacity.
yeah,
Because
they just
like
add them
yeah,
in.
Yeah.
yeah.
Frozen makes its way in, Ratatouille makes its way in. It's great that they can just kind of take those, take the countries as is and not have to worry about like taking a country down to put something else in. They just kind of incorporate it.
And I love Coco, but I really
Oh,
don't want them to
I
change the Grand Fiesta Tour.
I both don't want them to, but I also really do. I love Coco. I think it's like I call it a masterpiece. So I would not be upset if they changed it, but I also want Coco to get the treatment it deserves in a ride and not just like shoved into a space.
I would agree.
Um,
Yeah,
so I'd go
they could
either
do
way. I think
better.
that yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, I'm excited that they've done it, that they're going to do it in California Adventure to kind of see what it can be
Like,
first, and then if it works in or in Epcot, that's great too.
is
Yeah.
is
But I
Animal
like that it's
Kingdom
getting
getting Encanto or Coco?
I think Animal
Animal
Kingdom.
Kingdom's getting Encanto.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I cannot wait for that, by the way. That would be right now. If you had to like have like a what are you most excited for?
it's
It's
that.
that a ride to go through the casita. Are you kidding me? Like
Hmm.
take my I'll pay for that
Which I think
I want to
$500
be in
fast pass.
I want to meet Bruno and the rats like in the catacombs um of the casita. And Antonio's room is going to be lit.
Yeah, I
Um
can't wait.
yeah.
All right.
Now
Well,
we're going to
this
break
is
some
easy.
hearts now.
No, we're not.
My
You
heart will be broken.
well,
Matt, are
okay.
you kicking us off here with
I mean, yeah, move the World Showcase on 2 spots ahead if we want to keep going. It's the World Showcase. It's not just the World Showcase, it's Epcot. It's like,
yeah.
Epcot at the front of the park has some great stuff going on as well that I'm sure will come up on the bracket. But when you think of Epcot, you think of the World Showcase. And, again, when I'm thinking of it in terms of like if one of these had to go, Everest, sorry. Space Mountain, sorry.
Cool. Jonathan, where do you stand?
Yeah, I'm for World Showcase moving on beyond Everest. I think we can have a conversation about World Showcase for Space Mountain when we get there. I'm not sure it's as easy as Matt's saying,
Nice for me.
but fair enough. But for now, I think definitely World Showcase over Everest, just for all the reasons we've been talking about.
Mel, are we sweeping it?
We're sweeping it. I enjoy Everest, but to be transparent, if I have to like skip a park, it is typically Animal Kingdom.
Not
I
when
like
Encanto
Everest,
World
but I
rolls up.
can't. No, then that's gonna change everything. But for now, like I can't skip Epcot, and when I go to Epcot, I don't skip World Showcase ever. I just think there's always something there. Be it if you just want to get something to eat, if you want a cocktail, which I don't even do that much there because it's just too hot. And the fact that I can have suffered heat stroke in the World Showcase side 2 different times and still feel no ill will. The World Showcase just shows it's great. And for anybody who is a smoker, I'm not, but if you ever go with a smoker, World Showcase is a sanctuary for smokers. There are smoking sections in like every country because internationally, everybody still smokes cigarettes very regularly.
Huh.
Good to know.
I don't
Good
know
to
if I've
know.
picked up on that.
Yeah,
Um,
I went with a smoker previously, and it was a very draining experience at the time, and I'm glad they stopped smoking. But
Yeah.
it was like when you got to World Showcase, it was like everybody just ripping butts in between,
Ripping
yeah.
butts.
all the countries.
Um, Jonathan, so I know where Matt stands with I love Everest. At one point in time, that might have been one of my favorite rides of the entire park, maybe favorite ride at one point in my life. But Matt's firmly World Showcase advancing over Space Mountain. Where do you stand, Jonathan?
I think it's Space Mountain.
Wow.
Just because I mean it's an iconic Disney ride. It's the iconic Disney roller coaster, I think. And I think that's something that's you can't overlook, you can't pass up. So it's Space Mountain for me. We're gonna make Mel break the tie here.
Mel, break the tie. I definitely have where I'm leaning, but I'm not going to influence you. I want to see Mel uh make this decision.
Okay. On a personal level, World Showcase, I love it. Love, love, love it. But there are attractions within World Showcase, whereas World Showcase itself, it's kind of like a land in a concept. Space Mountain is like an absolute icon of Disney. It is visually an icon of the parks. Like not concern, but we talk about like Disney's never done blah blah blah, and that things can get changed, things can be taken out, and you kind of don't know what are properties they would touch. And I do feel if Space Mountain was touched or altered in some way, that we would all be furious on a very high level. And the fact is that there is a Space Mountain in every country around the world. Like everyone has it. It is iconic. And even though it, again, gives me back pain, I also think that the queue is physically one of the worst things that I could stand in. That hurts as well. I think I have to give it to Space Mountain. It is Disney. It's synonymous with Disney.
World
This is awful.
Showcase evicted from the bracket, and I hate it
And it
here.
hurts me
Goodbye,
to do that. It
everyone.
hurts me to
No.
do that as an Epcot and World Showcase girly.
Wow, I was with Matt. I was like, I like Space Mountain, but like it's wow. But you made some solid points, like the fact that it is synonymous with like Disney theme parks in every country. Like you
It's
made
that, you know,
solid
that shirt that
points.
everyone wears where it's like,
Yeah, but like,
I'm hiking the mountains, and then it's got that and the other two. But I think that if you were to put images of those mountains separately and not put them together, I think people would recognize Space Mountain. But I think if you drew pictures of the other mountains, which I don't know, now that we've changed the name of Tiana, I don't know
Yeah.
what are we
Yeah.
doing here? But like I love Big Thunder Mountain, but like visually, it's amazing. But I just don't think it's like as synonymous versus if you show that peaked whatever we want to call the shape of it. It's just so unique. It's when you are at the hotel, if you're like going like Grand Floridian or that's where you see that. You can see that from a distance and you're like, oh, there's Disney. Oh, I can see the castle. Oh, I can see Space Mountain. You don't see anything else.
this is awful.
I know,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I am in grief right now, but hopefully World Showcase has some redemption along the bracket in different rides that we might see. But like for me, like the countries is where it's at. That is like probably the reason for going to the parks. Like I'm like, if I don't go to every country, if I don't like at least walk by, even if I don't go into the pavilion, I'm like, I need to at least walk by and like get a taste of the world. It's like the Amazing Race, but in an hour.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, me and Matt will be grieving in the Mexico Pavilion. But I guess we'll move to the next piece of the bracket, which will go to the lower quadrant on the left. I will also post a clean bracket online for people who want to fill it out themselves. But up first, we got Phantasmic versus the Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor. Mel, why don't you start this one?
Oh, this Matt's gonna be so mad at me. Okay, so let me just preface
I'm
this.
logging off.
I know, but it's so hard. Okay, this is where it gets difficult. Again, because I don't even know actually where I'm voting in my head. So I love Phantasmic. I haven't gone in a while, but that's also because it hasn't been the nights I've gone. So I guess my con for Phantasmic is why is it not every night of the week it should be?
What do you
It
mean?
drives me crazy. I feel, isn't it not?
It
I
is
felt like it
now.
was like, is it now? Okay, maybe that's
It's
part
every
of
night
it.
and sometimes even twice a night.
Yeah, I remember being like two times where there's like a 7 or 9, but then at one point it was like, oh, it was like on Tuesdays or whatever, and it got confusing.
Maybe during COVID. I
Um,
don't know.
or it might have been like a long
I
time
was
ago.
gone
Like
during COVID.
a lot of times I haven't. I feel like because of like half day and like park hopping, sometimes I think I probably went to like Hollywood Studios in the morning and then switched. But I do love Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor. Every time is different. The like holiday overlay is really fun too. Um, my con for Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor is if you don't time it correctly, it feels like the longest wait of your entire life. And I also want to vote for it because I do enjoy some shows. I do actually go to some things and I don't skip Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor. I do enjoy it. Um, but that Phantasmic song slaps so hard. All right, I'm gonna vote for Phantasmic because of that song. I think of that song all the time. But I just want to give props that I love Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor. I think it's a delightful attraction.
It snuck its way into the bracket. It was one of the last ones.
And I always
And
want to know how it works too, by the
yeah.
way. Like I find like the how like behind the scenes of it is like I wish I knew somebody who did that so I could ask like how are you doing the movements and how are you doing the whatever. I,
Hmm.
Yeah.
I just like that.
I do enjoy the Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor as well, but it you were gonna hurt Matt's feelings. Are you voting for
Yeah.
Fantastic Matt?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And I echo everything that Mel has to say about Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor. It is adorable. Like Mel said, every single time you go in, it's different. The actors that are behind the monsters are always really, really funny, and they make jokes that will, because it's they're comedians. They're doing crowd work based off what the audience responds to. I will say I do actively avoid being that guy. I will sit anywhere but where I think that they might call on because because I don't want to be a part of it. I want to watch. I don't want to be
You don't want
involved.
to be in the splash zone. You don't want to participate.
I'm
No,
opposite.
no.
I want to be picked on. And now that I think of it, I will say a con for the ride then is that since it is always that guy,
They don't pick
I can't
girls,
be, it's never a girl. So
women.
I can't get picked. And therefore
No,
Can
it's
I
you
don't
can
like
you
that. It's a little sucky.
dress in like
I should just dress
drag?
like a Disney dad. Yeah, or like a Disney dad. That should go as like a Disney daddy for Mickey's Not So Scary
You could
Halloween
get on
party.
the Jilfs
Do
of
they do a
Disneyland
Halloween
account.
overlay for
They
it at
they did
the
it. It wasn't a show.
yeah.
It was a candy walkthrough. So you go get your candy and you could sit down in the seats because the monsters were interacting
Oh,
with people as they
cute.
were sat down. So they were just mostly talking about the people that were walking right through it. But also if people were sitting down, they were having a little bit of back and forth and it was cute.
Oh, I like
Um,
that.
so yeah, Monsters Inc. adorable, but as I will continue to advocate for Phantasmic going forward into future rounds, I'm sure it is like Fantasmic to me just is Disney World. It is everything that I want in a show in Disney World. It is the perfect ending to a day at Disney parks. We recently just went for my birthday, my 30th birthday a couple of months ago, and I knew that, my perfect day would have ended with Fantasmic, and it did. Luckily, no weather or nothing shut it down, so we were able to see it. It is just perfect. If you haven't seen it, if you don't know Fantasmic, you can very easily watch it on YouTube. You can very easily watch it on any variety of live streamers that will stream it, on any given day, and you can feel like you're there. But it was gone for a while in Disney World because of COVID, essentially, and then they did renovations, and it was a while before it came back. So I think I went twice in the time that it was gone, and I didn't get to see it. So when it was back, I was so excited. And then the Disneyland version was also down for a bit because the fire breathing dragon had breathed a little too much fire, and I think it's back now. Yeah, so um, it holds a very special place in my heart, and I'm glad Mel gave the vote that we can guarantee it.
Well, Jonathan, where do you stand? Are you
Yeah,
voting?
it's a clean sweep.
Okay. So you didn't even have to worry because Mel wasn't going to decide.
Yeah, I knew I wasn't deciding it, but I sing that Phantasmic song in my head all the
It's in my head
time.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, Laugh Floor is cute. I also enjoy the behind the scene. Like, I want to know how it works really badly, and I love puns and I love dad jokes. But Matt hates that. But Phantasmic, it's great, and
Yeah.
so it goes through for me.
You hate dad jokes, Matt?
No,
Um,
he hates my jokes. It's different.
Oh.
that's not true. It
Uh,
depends.
it depends. No, the only con about Phantasmic is that if you get seated in the far end, it takes forever to get out at the end. Like that's the like traffic to get out. That's the only downside of
Yeah,
Phantasmic.
but like I love that there's also like refreshments that you can get in there. There's
Mhm.
bathrooms obviously like right in the back of the theater. It's great. We got to see Fantasmic with the Sister Nino family 2 trips ago because they just
Fun.
happened to be in Disney at the same time. We ran into each other, and I don't remember if they were planning on going, or I think they
They weren't.
were. They weren't planning on going to,
I
but
don't think they
like
were.
either way, we all got there late. We sat in one of the backpack rows, which I had never done at Fantasmic, but I think everybody enjoyed it. And then we made that mad dash out to try to get through the crowds, and then they made the mad dash out to get to Slinky Dog Dash in time because they had a lightning lane for it, and they
Fun.
made it, we made it, so you can get through the crowd.
Yes.
And by the
Yes.
way, the pro tip for Phantasmic is don't get refreshments in the stadium, the Phantasmic spot. There's, all of the land leading up to it. There's drink stands, there's food stands. Get it before you walk through the gates of Phantasmic. It's so much better. You don't have to wait
Are
in a
they
long, long
cheaper or
line.
better?
Better, oh, both. I think.
Because
Oh.
they have like the fresh juice and that kind of stuff out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
get
if
your
And
you
also you
have
popcorn
don't
bucket
need
loaded up before. Get your refill popcorn bucket.
the dining package either.
Mhm.
No.
Yeah. I love the hacks. Feel free to drop all the hacks that you have on this podcast throughout. Um, all right. So we have the Rivers of Light, which is the Animal Kingdom light show, I guess, versus Minnie and Mickey's Runaway Railroad slash, if you haven't done that, the Great Movie Ride. I combined them as like because that's what it used to be, right?
Gonna be
Two very
controversial for
different
some
rides,
people.
but
Yeah.
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 So am I starting here or is it Matt?
Yeah.
you can.
Whoever wants to start.
Go ahead.
So So the issue with the Rivers of Light is that Animal Kingdom is never open at dark anymore. Um,
Yes.
Mm.
and that's a personal pet peeve of mine because they spent so much money on making Pandora look so nice at nighttime. And then they're just like, you know what? Never. We're never going to let you see this. But also, regardless, whichever ride it is, Mickey or Minnie's or the Great Movie Ride. The Great Movie Ride growing up was one of my favorites. I'm a movie boy, as I think you all
A
know.
cinephile.
Sure. And I mean the ending montage of the Great Movie Ride, where it's just like, look at all the great movies that were ever made ever that Disney can show. Was just one of my favorite things. The live interaction of the Great Movie Ride back when it was, the scenes that they had where, they would have the your conductor would get abducted or whatever, and it would get taken over by the robber or the whatever it was always great. And Mickey and Minnie's is it's a very cute replacement as well. I miss the Great Movie Ride, but I think Mickey and Minnie's is a worthwhile replacement for it. So that's what's going through for me.
Mel, where do you stand?
Uh, I second River Light being in midday, like where it's still sunny out. It also, pacing wise, I feel moves at a snail's pace, and I don't know why. I also don't like it because I decided to see it because I thought it would be beautiful and I wanted to see the show. And then I waited just slightly too long to watch it because it was so slow that I missed being able to do one of my dream things at Animal Kingdom, which is the like sunset safari, like the last Kilimanjaro safaris that go out when the dusk happens. So I'm pissed at it for that reason. Um, I love Great Movie Ride. It was both like amazing at one point in time and also very corny eventually. I've never laughed harder in my life than the last time I got to go on it. And the woman was doing like her Bugsy voice, and it was truly so hilarious. I don't know why it just like didn't work, but it worked because it was great. And then Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, I've only gotten to do one time, and it is so delightful. And it's really nice to have representation of Mickey and Minnie in the parks. We really don't have a lot of it. And that was part of like their initiative to like bring Mickey back because people started to view him as simply just a corporate mascot and not like I always like go to Disney because this is Mickey's house. This is like I always try to go meet Mickey because pay respect to whose property you're coming to visit. So I really love Runaway Railway. And I wish there was a little bit more for attractions for them, but hopefully we get some more.
Yeah.
I don't even know if Rivers of Light is even still a thing, honestly. I think it might be over. I haven't seen anything about an Animal Kingdom nighttime attraction in years. I don't think that they
No.
have them anymore. They got rid of the kite tails
I wish I
thing
got
and
to see Kite
everything.
Tails. Kite Tails looked unhinged.
I mean, I was happy seeing those on video form, but I never felt like I needed to see it in person. It was just, and then the freaking kites kept crashing on the audience members. So it was probably already going to be Mickey and Minnie's for me of these two, but I do agree. I love everything about Mickey and Minnie's. I understand everybody that is, always going to hold it against Mickey and Minnie's in some way for the Great Movie Ride being gone, but it's a really fun, really cute family ride. And it's a clean sweep.
It's
One of
also
the few
Mickey
I
and
haven't
Minnie. Like
been.
it's not like other properties like where we're shoehorning in something else. It's like it's Mickey. It's his
Yeah.
park. Like it's not, I don't know. It's not
And
Toy Story being put in another thing, like making it more Pixar or something. It's the icon of the park getting a ride that's due. And it's such an interesting system. I guess its only con is that it is like all screens. So like if
Mhm.
the ride goes down and you see any glitches, it's a bummer.
I have not done Mickey and Minnie. That is I have yet to try it and I look forward to the day. But Matt,
Well, and Felipe,
Fantasmic.
keep in mind next time it's in Disneyland now too. So
Yes, I
next
do
time you're
believe
there,
so.
just
Yeah.
head on back to
Yeah.
Toontown.
I do know the song. I have heard the song. It's
oh, it
Hanukkah
is,
And it'll
it
Cousin.
never get out of
gets
your head.
caught in your head like nothing else.
Um, Matt, Fantasmic or Mickey Minnie slash Great Movie Ride?
Yeah, I love Sorcerer Mickey versus Mickey,
Yeah.
cartoon Mickey and his wife. Phantasmic goes through for sure. Mickey and Minnie's is very cute, very fun. And I'm happy to go on it anytime that I'm in Hollywood Studios, especially given all of the thrill rides. That like I'll go on Mickey and Minnie's over any of the Tower of Terrors, Rock and Roller Coaster, Slinky Dog Dash, just because I want a calmer, smoother ride. Also, we haven't talked about the Daisy
Oh
ballerina
my
scene.
gosh, the
Is
best.
like you will. I don't want to super spoil it for Felipe, but the first time you go on it, I could not stop laughing in that part of the ride. So it is adorable, but it's got to be Fantasmic.
Jonathan, where do you stand?
It's Fantasmic in this matchup for me as well.
Cool. And Mel, are we sweeping?
I'm just gonna give it some props, because I did like it, and because I've been craving going on it again. I'm gonna give it to Minnie and Mickey's Runaway Railway, just because but when I did get to go on it, I was not feeling at my best. I'd had a real bad motion sickness day, thanks to the likes of a Tower of Terror, Rock and Roller
Yeah.
Coaster, and everything else, all these thrill rides, that I didn't get to enjoy it the way I wanted to. And I remember then immediately coming home and looking up videos of it to like try to remind myself what I experienced and what I missed. And I think there's a lot of interesting details and Easter eggs I haven't seen. So because I'm craving it, I'm going to give that the vote. But I'm glad Fantasmic is moving on. I think it's very well deserved.
Yes. Well, Fantasmic moves along, and I think this next matchup is gonna hurt Jonathan and Mel and Matt and all of us. Uh, Carousel of Progress versus Festival of the Lion King. Jonathan, let's start with you.
So this is tough because, I mean, it's ultimately not tough, but Carousel of Progress is so nostalgic. Um, growing up, watching it, knowing the history of it, but then you watch it now and it's like, you skip from the turn of the century to the 20s to the 40s to the future, which is like the future is also like 2000 in Carousel of Progress land. Um, Whereas the Festival of the Lion King is, we were talking about Beauty and the Beast earlier, where I said there was the second closest thing they get to a Broadway level performance, and Festival of the Lion King is there. I mean, I guess it's more Cirque du Soleil than anything else. But the live singing, the live dancing, the gymnastics, the trampolining, the just all of it, it's in the monkey scene in particular. Though the work that they do is just remarkable. And so this has got to be Festival of the Lion King for me. I think it's one of the best things that Disney does
I
in terms
agree.
of live performance.
I don't want either of these to ever go away, though. Like, I low-key love Carousel of Progress, but Festival of the Lion King, like, that needs to stay there forever. Mel, where do you stand?
So confession is I've never seen Festival of the Lion King. Again,
Oh,
it's mostly just due to
Wow.
really like that I downgrade Animal Kingdom as a park and like for the time that I'm there. And it's usually because it's a half day park, I kind of bounce around and I skip a lot of the shows. That said, the way that Matt feels about Fantasmic is the way I feel about Carousel of Progress.
I know this.
I think Carousel of Progress is just, to me, it's just like delightful. I like that it's a bit dated. I appreciate that they've at least started to like, all I've said for years, well beyond them doing this, is that like the future is now, and all they had to do is just kind of slightly tweak the way the scene was. Cause for a while they were, their dated clothes and their VR video games. And there's some stuff that I'm sure they could do a little voiceover to tweak, but at least, they gave John and the kids some new clothes in the final scene and whatever. And it's a nice mix of a ride, a show, the longest running theater production of all time. I go on Carousel Progress, and this is, mind you, it's what, 25 minutes long. I will typically try to go on Carousel Progress 2 to 3 times at least. The longest I've done it is I think we did it 5 times in a row at night. When it was one of those times when
Ah.
you could stay till like 3 in the morning, and we just were like, keep us on. I love it. So my vote is 100% Carousel Progress. It's going to destroy me if this doesn't move on.
See, I'm gamifying this in my head so much right now because I know what my answer is, and Mel won't be happy.
Oh,
But that said, like part of me is like, I could strike a deal. I could let Carousel of Progress go through here as long as Phantasmic goes through next. But, well, I mean, I think it still might go through
I
next.
think it still would regardless. And I
But
and I say this is knowing the next ride. I know what my next vote will be, but I know that no matter what, Phantasmic is moving along. So I think there's no
Right. So
concerns.
I could give Mel a little bit of something here, but like it just like it's tough because it wouldn't be authentic because Festival of the Lion King is just so and Mel, I feel like you're at a disadvantage having never actually been able to sit down and see it
Yeah,
in
I'm sure
person,
it's
but it's
amazing
just
too.
and I like totally understand, the love for Carousel of Progress, not 5 times in a row worth of love.
Let's
But
remind everyone too, it's the only thing in Disney World that Walt Disney himself actually touched because everything else he was dead before.
mhm.
So I don't want to say you're besmirching his memory by not choosing it, but maybe think about that.
I've thought about it. Lion King, I also have such a strong connection with. It's a 1994 movie. I'm a 1994 baby. So it's just always been there for me. And just the show, like when it came back from being closed during COVID, it was back not even in a full way, but it was still so good. And then, as Jonathan was talking about with the Tumble Monkeys, when they made their return too, and now it's just like the full complete show that no matter how many, like I could see that 5 times in a row and I would still be impressed. The animatronics or whatever they're called, I think they're animatronics on the floats that come in and sit there. Simba, Pumbaa, and then the tall giraffe, and then you have all of the actors, you have all the performers that are just so good. And sometimes I sit there and I wonder, how do they pull this off? I think it's like 5 times a day, 4 or 5, 6 times a day with all the different shows that they have. I don't know how they do it. I mean, it's their job, and they obviously have their jobs for a reason because they're so good. But the audience participation that goes into it, like honestly, if there was anything that was going to take Phantasmic down, I would almost be fine with it being Festival of the Lion King. And I almost wonder if maybe a certain person here might be tempted to vote that through if I let it go through. So maybe I do put
It's not going to
Carousel of
matter because Mel
Progress.
hasn't seen it. So
You're
While
right.
you ponder, shout out to the trapeze, the bird, when they do Can You Feel the Love Tonight also, incredible. Um, what section do you always like if you could choose, would you rather be like a warthog, a giraffe? What are the four options? Like
yeah, it's
Yeah.
the lions, the warthog, the giraffe, and
the
the elephants.
elephants, yes. Yeah, Mel, you get to be a participant in the festival.
I don't know if I
And
like
they
that or not.
they
I'm
get
kind
you
of
to
either way.
make
Matt doesn't want to.
noises.
I do want to be that guy, but I don't, and I want like Monsters Inc. because that. But audience participation freaks me out. Like when I went to Blue Man Group, it was like the most anxiety I've ever felt in the theater in my life. I was like, oh my
they
God, I have to
they
like
do
do
try to pick a
stuff.
child, so
Oh, okay,
it's
so that's a pro then.
yeah. Women are really having a hard time finding a spot to get picked as the audience participation
It's always
spot.
those
It's
kids.
it's a man or a child in some of these shows. But I have to be, give my authentic answer here. It has to be Festival of the Lion King. We can blame Felipe for putting this as the matchup because
Eh,
in so
Yeah, there's
many
been
other
a
worlds,
few tough
blame the
ones.
randomizer, blame the wheel, blame whatever you want. Don't
in
blame
so
me.
many other worlds,
Blame
Carousel
maybe
of
you can
Progress
blame
goes
Matt
to
Rigori. No.
get out of here. Goes a
Crushes
couple
my
more rounds,
soul.
but not
Listen,
here.
hopefully I will go on Festival of the Lion King, go to see it, and I will be a game changer. But I will always, nothing could beat it for me. I just find there's just something so endearing about Carousel of Progress.
And with that, listen, I'm a Carousel of Progress guy, especially like in the rain. That's always like a good like rain escape. Um, and I love like the rotating room. That's just so soothing. But Festival of Lighting, incredible show.
I love thinking about like, oh, it's crazy how the song is playing here and playing over there, and it's linked up, and I see the wall moving, and it's so weird how we're just
Yeah.
going in a circle. I'm like, how are we finishing over here?
Yeah, it does break my brain a little bit.
It does.
Uh, next up we got Dinosaur and Stitch's Great Escape. Matt, is it your turn to start?
Sure.
Yeah,
So as you mentioned, Stitch's Great Escape
I think
no
both of these
longer.
are dying soon, right? Or if not,
Uh,
already dead.
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah,
Stitch's Great
I think
Escape has been
Dinosaur might be
gone.
officially dead very, very soon.
Yeah, Stitch has been gone for a while. Dinosaur, we did, make sure we got our last ride on in the last time that we went. And even if they were both around forever, Stitch's Great Escape was just terrifying in the way that Alien Encounter was before. It is in a section of the park, Tomorrowland, that is like meant to be like, really fun for kids, and it's just scary. Dinosaur, on the other hand, is so fun. It is such a sleeper ride, such a sleeper attraction. It is so underrated. And I'm glad that we're not losing the ride itself. It's going to turn into the Indiana Jones version of the ride, which I did not get to go on in Disneyland because it was not open at the time. But I'm excited to experience it whenever it opens up. And in the meantime, let's go get that dino.
Yes. Jonathan, where do you stand?
Yeah, so I actually never did Stitch's Great Escape, that
He
I can
escaped.
ever remember.
He es
And I don't think I ever was on Alien Encounter either. It's just not
Definitely never did
my
that.
family's type of thing. But Dinosaur, I'm not as high on as Matt. It's going through for me, but I'm not as high on it as Matt is just because I grew up with the Disneyland Indiana Jones, so I know it's the same ride system and all of that. And I love the Disneyland Indiana Jones. I was so sad it was under refurbishment when Matt and I went to Disneyland
Hmm.
last year. But I am excited for the new Indiana Jones ride, which will be different than the Disneyland Indiana Jones ride, while also still being an Indiana Jones ride with the same ride system as the other Indiana Jones ride. So it's going to be interesting to see what that is like and to see what new stuff they come up with and if it's going to be like 100-year-old Harrison Ford uh doing it. But I'm Dinosaur goes through here for me.
Awesome. Mel, is it a sweep or are you voting
It
for
is
Stitch?
a clean sweep. So I do want to preface with one thing, which is I actually like love Stitch. I was a Stitch girly for a very long time.
He's
Fell off
Matt's
the
favorite
radar, which
character
is funny
too.
because now he's back and everyone's like obsessed with him. And I'm like, nobody liked him. I don't think they should be making a live action one. I will put that out there. I did experience extraterrestrial encounter. It is the most scared I've ever been on a ride. I had a panic attack on it. I was 13 years old. It was horrifying. I was because when you're 13, your mind is running wild. And you don't know with the magic of Disney, when that glass breaks, what is getting out? Like, is it actually getting out? Like, you don't know. Like, you could turn the lights on. There is one. You're like, you have no idea. Cause I'd gone on a great movie ride and like the xenomorph from Alien comes out of the ceiling at you. Like, that's scary. And that's still like 10 feet above you. I lost my mind on extraterrestrial. Stitch was just like I was happy to have it for the sake of representation of Stitch. I like Stitch. I thought it was a cute animatronic. You could have done literally anything else. The attraction itself sucked. Dinosaur is a delight. The first time I went on that, I just had the time of my life. I didn't know what it was going to be. I enjoyed it so much. I remember the on ride photo that it was like the one time I'm like, oh, we should buy this. I didn't, but like it was like a hear no evil, see no, speak no evil kind of thing because we didn't know what was coming. I think it's so great. I'm bummed that it is closing. I also love Dr. Seeker and the pre-show with Felicia Rashad as well. Um, but yeah, glad the ride like mechanism will say Indiana Jones is a cool ride. I actually still think I like Dinosaur technically a little more, but it's a definite that was a definite for me.
All right. And then we now have Lion King versus Dinosaur. Jonathan, I think I know where you're voting. So let's start with
It's
you.
Lion King for me here. Um, yeah, it's Lion King
Yeah.
for me here. I'll leave it there.
Mel, since you haven't seen Lion King, where do you stand?
Yeah, it's Dinosaur. It would have been well, actually, no, Dinosaur would not be a Carousel of Progress. Let's be honest. It would have Carousel of Progress would be in the finals for me. It's Dinosaur though. I love Dinosaur.
And Matt, where's the tiebreaker going?
I do love Dinosaur a lot and just gave it all the praise I possibly could, but Lion King is gotta go through, and Mel will agree when she sees it.
All right, I'm gonna save Mel as the last vote for this next one. So, Matt, let's start with you for Fantasmic versus The Lion King.
I it's painful to have to for me say goodbye to Lion King here, but I have to go Phantasmic just because it's like it's not a ride, obviously, it's an attraction. So when I think of like attractions in Disney World, I would think of a couple of other things that I'd be like, I need this to be in the parks for my entire life, well, like every trip that I go on. And Phantasmic, I do need that. But like I don't know. I guess I'm thinking more long term because I'm like, well, there could be a world in future rounds of this bracket that if Phantasmic went up against something else, that I'm like, well, I could be willing to let Phantasmic go because maybe they come up with a new version of a show that is different, where they couldn't come up with a new version of X Ride or whatever the case is. All that said, still going to go Phantasmic. Lion King is great. I love it. This it's funny because these two matched up against each other both have not great seating. You both sit on a bench with no back that you can relax and lean against. Carousel of Progress did have that in its favor for comfortability of seating, but Phantasmic, at least it's like nighttime, it's cooled down a little bit, you're relaxed, and I gotta go with it.
JoFo, where do you vote?
So these are the two best live performances that Disney World does, at least. And so I'm gonna leave it there. Like I'm not certainly besmirching one or the other, but I am gonna put Lion King through here. It's a vote that it is. I don't think it's gonna matter much. But I am putting Lion King through here. I just think it's so impressive throughout. I mean, I keep repeating the tumbler monkeys, but it's just the level of athleticism and skill and all that they have. It's remarkable. And so I put Lion King through here. And then what's Mel's vote gonna be?
Mel, where do we vote?
I was just thinking it'd be really funny if I put Lion King. I haven't seen it.
Honestly,
You are swaying me though. And part of this is, like I said, it's simply that I just don't, on a per park choice basis, Animal Kingdom is the bottom of the parks, and it's no disrespect to it. It's just like a level of that. It is more like it's a very easy day. Like there are rides, but just kind of like not the level of rides and attractions that'll change. I also, a teaser for the future. I just like don't give a shit about Pandora. It's like an ironic thing. I don't think anybody truly likes Pandora. I think that I think it's just like fine. We'll get there. Um, but since I've seen one, I haven't seen the other. I do want to say one thing about Phantasmic, which is technically, I think the California Phantasmic is a bit better. Maybe it's just the location. It's very like centralized, pretty cool. Um, but Sorcerer Mickey, big deal. And also props. And I guess I'll use it as like a thing. I have a friend who used to work for Phantasmic, and she met her spouse partially as they both worked at Phantasmic. So they met somewhere else, but they both also worked at Phantasmic. So bringing everybody together, not just Matt and JoFo, but also others. It's a uniting front, and it is a really nice show. And I really like seeing Sorcerer Mickey, splash. And again, haven't seen Festival of the Lion King. Sounds amazing. I will see it next time. This is
yes, Mel, if
boosted
you
it
go
up
to
the
Disney
radar.
World and you don't see it next time, I'm gonna be upset. This is your last chance to go and be off my beef
It's
list.
gonna be a long time, I think, till now the dinosaur's gone though. It'll probably be a long. I probably won't go to Animal Kingdom until the expansion's done, if we're being honest. But
Valid.
I want to go because my mom really wants to go to Animal
At least
Kingdom.
watch it on YouTube if you haven't. I think that
I
it's
know, but I'd rather wait. I'd rather just experience
okay.
it.
That's valid.
Almost like so I like go in and I'm like, okay,
No,
let me be
absolutely.
delighted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't just watch it on YouTube. Your first time should be, yeah.
All right. Uh, Mel, since you just cast the tiebreaker vote, I will go to you first. Phantasmic or Space Mountain?
Okay. So when I think Disney World, if I had to do like top of mind association, I am sorry, Matt, but it is Space Mountain. It is an icon of Disney. Everyone goes on it. You can't miss it. It's 24 hour, well, not 20, it's always there, constantly changing and evolving, doing different things to get you excited about it for the holidays or whatever. So Space Mountain.
Jonathan, where do you stand?
It's Phantasmic for me. Something I haven't said yet is we went to Festival of the Arts in 23. So yeah, like almost 2 years ago now. And the one thing that I was looking for there was I want a Sorcerer Mickey, I want a Phantasmic piece of art, which we found. It's the it's based off the Disneyland Phantasmic, but it is gracing our walls here
Are you looking
still.
at it right now?
I am looking at it
Yes.
right now. So, I mean, Phantasmic goes through for me. Sorcerer Mickey has a soft spot in my heart. And the show based around Sorcerer, or that ends with Sorcerer Mickey, is just great for me. So, Phantasmic it is.
Matt, break this tie.
I appreciate that I don't have to spend the rest of this bracket voting against Space Mountain out of just like anger that it keeps taking down my favorite things. So I'm glad to end that here and send Phantasmic through. It's not hard for me. Space Mountain is obviously the icon that Mel is explaining it to be, but it hurts, and I don't want to be hurt at Disney. I don't want to, be afraid of the things that I am going on and that I'm going to do. And I am going to be happy at a Phantasmic showing 10 out of 10 times. I will be happy I went on Space Mountain every couple of years, maybe sometimes. End of story.
Yeah. All right. With that, Phantasmic advances, and we can go to the right-hand side. We got probably one of Mel's favorites, if I had to guess. Journey
Yeah,
into
can I
Imagination.
kick this one off? Because I got feels about both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I was gonna go to you first because I assume you love Figment and hate the Navi River journey, but maybe I'm just
Let's
off
do it.
and you're completely opposite of that.
No, so I want to say one thing. This is my butt, which is I love Figment. The ride that currently exists is 85% garbage. The last part No, a little bit more because you get to go through his room. So I'll say 75% garbage, 25% perfection. But I love Figment and I think the potential is there. And obviously there is a much more amazing version. I have like Figment action figure. When I go to the park, it's like, what is there any Figment merch I can get that I can use that isn't just a festival thing? So Navi River Journey. On top of the fact that here's the thing, I watched Avatar simply because I was going to Animal Kingdom. It wasn't something I wanted to see. I ironically enjoy Avatar. I actually don't like it, but I like to make jokes about it a lot. I said I was going to show up this summer in an Avatar bathing suit, that kind of stuff. I find it funny. I painted my face when I watched Avatar like a year ago, the second one, The Way of Water. I love to laugh about it.
I love the Way of Water. I could
But
hang
I
out with those
think that
whales for an
like
hour.
I do want to say, I think the other ride is amazing. I think it is like an amazing ride, but I don't think it has anything to do necessarily with people being like attached to the IP or any of that. Maybe that's what actually stands strong about Pandora is the fact that like most people actually don't know what it is. When I was there, I heard a kid say like, so if I watched the movie, it would look like this. Like nobody knows about it. It's just like the only big ticket attraction there besides Everest for the other ride. Navi River Journey is if all the plants on Living with the Land were fake, and then there's a 10-foot animatronic at the end. I have gone on it once. I don't think I ever have to go on again. I hate Navi River Journey. And it is such a
Mhm.
long wait for such a mid-tier thing. At least Living with the Land has that pan flute and a little bit of narration. You can see what you're eating. I love Living with the Land. I can stand on that one. I don't think that's here. But I hate Navi River Journey. I would rather go and get that skunk smell in my face on Figment for that delightful 15 seconds of song at the end of Figment. I'll stand on that.
You're standing on business right there.
I'm standing on biz right there. Standing on
Matt,
imagination.
Matt, where do you stand?
I love a boat ride, so I really
I love a
enjoy
boat ride
Navi.
too.
And
Thank you.
I love boat rides, by the way.
Yeah,
Any
I know
other boat
Mel
ride,
does
I
too.
absolutely love, but the 90-minute wait for that
That's well, so I mean, look,
bioluminescent
do
CGI
I
plants.
do I prioritize making sure that I can do lightning lanes while I go to Disney? Yes, that obviously allows you to not have to wait in the line. So I will make sure that I would never go on that ride if there was 90 minutes between me and going on it. Absolutely not. But when I can book a lightning lane and just get right on, it's great. It's adorable. It's got some really cool colors, really cool effects, and of course, the Shaman of Song at the end is just the most incredible thing that Disney has ever done. So it's great to have that. Figment as a character, as a concept, like ride aside, is something that really grows on you as a Disney adult. It did not exist for me at all. Like that building was not entered by me, probably, or my family when I was a kid. So it was something that I had to, uncover again as an adult. Did you vote for Figment?
Yes, about Figment.
Okay, so I feel like I've taken enough votes that haven't gone your way so far that I don't
Why,
feel
thank you.
strongly either way, and I'm happy to give you Figment here.
Jonathan's wearing purple. Is it in honor of voting Figment through
It-
or?
well, Figment is going through. In this house, we have three different pieces of Figment artwork. And Matt just said as he just said, he has no
Right
attachment
here.
to Figment. This is because of me. We have a Figment plushie.
Here he is.
The dream catcher.
I mean, Figment he's my mom's favorite, and or I guess they are my mom's favorite. We don't know.
Yeah,
And
non-binary.
yeah, and as a
Non-binary
result, they've
icon.
become one of my favorite as well. So, Figment is definitely going through, especially over River Journey, which is, I think calling it mid-tier is generous, Mel. It's a boat ride, and that's the end of how in any way that it's good.
And it's because
Oh,
Animal Kingdom just doesn't have a ton of like premier
Right.
attractions that it stands out so much. If it was
yeah.
like if you threw Navi River Journey into like Magic Kingdom, it would just be along the lines of like, 30-minute
World
waits,
or
just like Small
yeah.
World. I mean,
And I
And
think the fact that you have this other if it was just its own ride, like this was the Avatar attraction, it'd be like, yeah, this is a nice ride. But then
mhm.
you have it up against Flights of Passage, which is so amazing. And the other con of it is they're in the same ride building. So if one goes down, the other goes down. So it's not like what if it's broken, they're both broken, and that really like sucks out of the day. So I think it's a con also like engineering wise, like that's a problem.
Mhm.
But I would pick Flights of Passage obviously over River Journey too, if that were like a head to head. I don't think
Yeah.
we have Flights of Passage on here actually.
So
Well, I think
I mean,
there's two brackets.
there's two brackets, and I was
yep.
gonna ask at the end of this first one, do we want to do a part two, or do you all want to go through this? Because I don't know how long it would take. Because we could always like come back on another day and do the second half.
If we like sped through the second half, I think we'd be
Okay,
fine.
cool.
Yeah.
And I think we probably can speed up a
Yeah,
little
we
bit.
can
Yeah,
start trying to
we
go
can
a
do a
little
quick
faster.
one.
Yeah. But in terms before we speed up, Jonathan, as one of my favorite letterboxd accounts, are you excited for the Figment movie that is in pre-production?
There's a Figment movie. I did not know this.
Allegedly.
I
Is
haven't
Allegedly.
it
seen
one of
it.
those things that's been in pre-production
But
for like
it's like,
15
isn't Seth
years,
Just
Rogen
or
in
make,
is
just
that?
it?
do the ride. Like I literally don't need a, like, we like Figment, and that's the point, is that where Disney is relying so much on IP to dictate everything because it feels like everything has to be connected. But it's like at some point, like there is just like park IP, and you don't need to make a movie out of it. Just invest in it, change the story. Eric Idle, by the way, also hates being on that ride. Like he even thinks it's a joke. So like just do something. I don't know what. I'm not, an Imagineer by any means, but literally anything we better. Just let us watch that end scene and just let us go on repeat for that for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's Seth Rogen that's attached to like produce it or something. But yeah. All right. So we got the of your choice. A parade in Magic Kingdom can be a nighttime, can be a daytime. Your choice, your favorite parade ever, versus Country Bear Jamboree. Matt, let's start with you here.
So the active parade at Magic Kingdom right now is the Festival of Fantasy, and they have like the holiday ones that are going on. So right now the Halloween one, and then in a couple of weeks it'll be the Christmas one. And I love a Magic Kingdom parade. There's so many different spots in the park you can watch. So I'm probably inclined to go with that one. Although I do want to give a shout out to the Country Bear Jamboree redo that has taken place. The over not overlay, just like the new version of it that's
What do
been
they do now?
since now, instead of just them singing some country songs and whatever songs the ride or the attraction was known for, they do a lot of IP, a lot of
Oh,
Disney
okay.
songs. So they do some Encanto, they do some Toy Story, they do some whatever,
Zootopia.
Coco, Zootopia,
They
and it's
sing
really
Shakira?
cute. Yeah,
Wow.
it's really, really cute.
Okay.
And I like it a lot, but I would still see that one go away so much sooner than I would like want to lose the concept of Magic Kingdom parades.
Yeah.
So
This might hurt Mel, but the old Country Bear Jamboree, like I would always go because I'm a completionist, but like you could have missed me with that old version. But this new one I'm interested in checking out.
yeah,
Uh,
it's really cute.
that's like one of the few things I was like, I don't get the hype. But Mel, are you a Bear girly?
Of course, I'm a Country Bears girly. I haven't gotten to go on the new one, so that was part of my. If I went, it was like, oh, I can go on Tiana and see new Country Bears. Um, I am bummed that they're not singing their old songs, but I totally understand, and I think it's necessary for it to evolve. It can't just be the same thing forever. And I bought a vinyl record for way too much money of the old Country Bear music, so I'm good to go. I do love parades. I think they all serve their purpose. I think they're really important. But typically I do skip a parade. I think they're great for families to like take a breather. But for me, a trip is not complete if I don't go on Country Bear, so I have to do that.
Okay. And then Jonathan, where do you stand on
Oh,
this
geez,
business?
this is tough for me because I don't really. Parades are very miss for me, but I also think we can't not send parades through. It's in one of the iconic things you have in Magic Kingdom. The new Country Bear Jamboree is great. I never had seen the old one, but the new one is so cute. I love Disney music. I mean, it's one of my favorite things. It's basically the only music I listen to. Um, but I think we do have to send the parade through.
All
It's
right.
understandable.
Parade versus Figment. Jonathan, let's just keep with you here.
Figment.
Figment, Mel.
For a minute, I'm going to tell you, I almost went with Parade because I do think they're consistently good. But the entity of Figment is just so important to the parks for me and for Epcot. And since I didn't allow World Showcase to move on, I think I gotta represent here. So I'm gonna put Figment through.
All right, Matt, where do you
Uh,
stand, even though it's a sweep? Or
yeah,
is it doesn't matter,
it's
but
decided. Doesn't matter now, but I will vote for the parades at this point just to give it a shout out. Parades are like what truly can, and like, I don't think any of us here have kids. If I think the kids factor for parades
Yeah.
is one of like the biggest things that it has going for it. And just like to have your child, like whether or not you go to the meet and greets all day, to be able to like have them see every single character so up close, and sometimes they walk towards you and they interact with you right in front of you for half a second, and like those magical moments are what make Disney Disney. So while I do love Figment, I would very much sooner get rid of Figment over getting rid of parades in Disney World. So, but
Mhm.
it's okay.
Well, next up we'll start with Matt here. Frozen Ever After versus Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. One of the few rides I have not been on. You could also sub in Frozen for Maelstrom if you prefer that version.
Oh, an icon.
I can make this very quick and very easy. It is Frozen. I know a lot of people love Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm not a roller coaster boy. I did not feel good after either time that I went on Guardians of the Galaxy. The first trip that I went after it had been opened. I will probably never go on it again. I am happy to watch it through people's YouTube videos and whatnot because it seems great for them. The song selection changing, great, fun. But Frozen, I enjoy. I love going backwards in that little boat. And I love Frozen. I don't love feeling the way I do after Guardians.
All right, JoFo.
Same. I think my new rule for the Guardians of the Galaxy ride is I will only go on it if I am there with people who have never been on it, who want to go on it. Um, it's a great ride vehicle. It's a great concept. It's great tech. The spinning is cool and fun, and it makes me feel like garbage. So it is Frozen for me here. Not just by default, because I also love the Frozen ride. I love the music. I love the going backwards on a boat. It's one of my favorite things. So it's Frozen for me.
Everyone loves going backwards.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
It
You
throws
should
you
Uh,
just go
off.
forwards.
yeah. Um, Mel, are you sweeping it?
So I'm not going to sweep. And this is I actually I still love Frozen. The first time I went on it, I teared up because I thought it was like so beautiful. I think unfortunately, knowing and seeing the technology of Frozen at other parks now, and in particular seeing the previews of Tokyo where they've gotten rid of that projection face, I just think the projection face has kind of aged it a little. I think there's other parts they're great. I love the music. I still think there's good parts, but um Guardians also made me physically ill the first time I went on. And I did it with the Christmas overlay, which I thought the music was like, I wish they had the rotating. But one is I've learned to take Dramamine the night before when I go to bed. That helps. But when you go on Guardians and if you get a song that you love, like you will not get sick because you spend the whole time like singing and getting excited. And when I got September, the whole ride for me suddenly was like, oh, this is the best I've ever been on. And I like that factor that I go on every time and it can be a little different. So I'm going to give the edge there. And I also call it as, we called it Space Mountain for grownups. That's how we
I
described it.
I wanted
I'm not a
that's
grown up.
one of the very valid because I also am Peter Pan, but
Yeah. Speaking of,
I've never done Guardians of the Galaxy, either of the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, because my mom didn't want to go on it.
Oh, that
The
one's fun
Tower of
too.
Terror, um, it's Tower of Terror, and I wanted to do it, but
Yeah.
my mom was not feeling well, so we didn't. And then I haven't done this one because it wasn't there. It was still Ellen, I think, when.
Also, I really like the queue at Guardians. I think the Frozen queue, thankfully, I think all of us are smart enough to use like Lightning Lane, Fast, whatever it is. But I feel like if I didn't have a Lightning Lane Fast Pass, I would not go on Frozen
no.
because I would not wait in that line. And I think that's a huge
I've
difference
Yeah.
as
I've waited in
well.
the line exactly one time, and yeah, no, it makes a whole world of difference of is the
Yeah.
ride worth it, when you're waiting in that kind of line or not. It is a cute queue, and you get to go to like the cabin in the woods and hear the guy say "Big Summer Blowout," and great, that's fun,
Just
but
seems like a
no,
lot of kids in that line. And with all,
it
I
is.
enjoy kids and it is obviously a place for children. It just feels like a lot of time to wait. And knowing how fussy I, as a grown adult, get in a line, I can't imagine what it's like to be 3 years old waiting for 70 minutes to go on first. But
Yeah.
also, big shout out that I loved Maelstrom. It was so baller. It was so dark and weird.
And you got to go
You
backwards on a boat.
yeah.
Yes, you have to go backwards on the
You
boat.
prefer the
The
Maelstrom
weird
version?
trolls there. I mean, it's two way different. And I love Frozen. That thing. This is a hard vote in
Yeah.
between. And I think I just wanted to give Guardians a little bit of the love.
Cool. Next up, we got one of my favorite rides, Peter Pan's Flight versus Rafiki's Planet Watch, which I believe is just the zoo, right?
It's like the
Yeah.
medical center
Yeah.
or something.
Okay,
It's
yeah,
it's like the petting zoo
the
and
petting zoo, yeah, which I've been to, I think, once. But
You can like see sometimes them doing weird things there with
yeah,
the not
you
weird
have to get
things,
on the
but
train to go there though.
yeah.
Let's start on JoFo here.
I mean, this is Peter Pan's flight for me almost kind of by default. I do think Peter Pan's flight is it's fun. I like being up in the air. It's and the ride vehicle is very cute. I would not wait. And if it was another one where it's a lightning lane only for me, because I would not wait the 60 plus minutes that it usually is to go on that 90-second ride. Um, but it is, I think, very cute, and especially now that they have gotten rid of the more problematic aspect of it, I think
Mhm.
it's definitely going through here for me.
Matt, where do you stand?
Same here. I don't really. So, Animal Kingdom is about the animals, and there's plenty other places that I can go to see the animals. I don't necessarily need the petting zoo. Again, I'm sure it's great for kids, but I gotta put me first here today in this one and go Peter Pan.
Mel, are we sweeping?
It's a sweep. Obviously, shocker, haven't done Rafiki's Planet Watch, which I thought for a while it was closed. Maybe it was. Heard good things. I'll go to it one day. Seems cool to maybe see like the animal hospital or whatever. But Peter Pan's flight is, we do a lot of dark rides, but you're up in the sky. I too agree. I'm really glad that they updated it to be a bit more modern and a little less problematic. And it has an 80-minute wait, but I think for good reason. And I do think the queue update they did when I finally did where it was moving at a decent speed and I probably waited like a half hour, the queue is actually really delightful and beautiful to walk through. And I didn't feel the pain of waiting in it because it was so good.
Imagine if Mel came out to this podcast and was like, you know what? I actually disagree. I wish that it didn't change. Like,
Yeah.
um,
That's my favorite scene. I actually just saw a TikTok where someone was like, it's so refreshing, like to see all the old scenes. They went to one of the parks. I don't remember where I was. And then I was like, you do realize what this is saying about you, right? Like
yeah,
it was very bizarre what kind of stance this girl was taking.
yeah. Love. I feel like Disney adult gets a bad connotation as a term, but like there are some population that we don't associate with of the Disney adult
Yeah.
branch. But anyways, Matt, Frozen or Peter Pan?
Frozen.
Frozen.
Both have long lines and both can be tough with those long lines, but Peter Pan, it's fun to fly over,
Yeah.
the whole ride, but I enjoy a boat ride in the water more than Peter Pan.
Okay, Mel.
So when you put JoFo first, I'm very torn right now. Because Peter Pan was like super nostalgic, and I'm trying to also like break my habit of just like, oh, and it's not that I'm tied to stuff. So there's lots of stuff I love about Peter Pan. I think I am going to give it to Frozen, and I'm simply thinking the fact where you do go backwards and the Abominable Snowman comes out. I just like that part. It's really delightful.
Yeah.
And I think they did a good job turning a ride space into something new. I think Peter Pan is just it's still like what it is. It's amazing. It is beautiful. I wish I could recreate it in my house, but it's not like a game changer. It's just nostalgia.
Jofa, where do we lean?
Yeah, it's a sweep here. It's Frozen here for me as well. So yeah, that's what's
Wow.
going
See,
through.
I'm a big Peter Pan's flight guy. I think it's just such a unique attraction in terms of like because it's the only one that's kind of like a grid or like a railing that you're on, versus like everything else is like a boat ride or a cart. But this is I've so but you know
I'd be
what?
intrigued how to get a walk off on Frozen because, like Peter Pan, I've gotten stuck on and I can tell where you get off. Like you can see, like if you get stuck on Peter Pan, like I think there's a little more of you can see the set itself, like you can tell
Yeah.
the building you're in versus Frozen, you were in the thing. So I think if I were going to also, like, if we're going to take that into factor of almost like a tiebreaker of like, okay, I get which of these would I rather get stuck on so that they'll let me walk on the set. I'd like to see where I could get off on Frozen and see what's there.
You would try to hang out with the abominable snowman, get a
Yeah, just get
photo.
like a quick selfie.
Um, Mel, Frozen or Figment?
Okay. Now I have to be realistic here, which is I absolutely love Figment as an entity, but the ride does largely suck. Whereas Frozen is a good ride and just needs to literally cut the heads off the animatronics and put the new ones in, or just put full new animatronics, which if you have the technology in Tokyo, like you didn't think of making two to begin with. But I will give it to Frozen here. And I'm sorry, Figment, but
Yeah.
the ride needs improvement before me. I can't have it go all the way through with the ride and the quality it's in.
Jofo.
I agree. It's Frozen here. Figment's had a good run, but I don't think it can go much beyond this.
And Matt, are we sweeping?
We're sweeping. Love the character, the ride itself. It's time to let it go.
No. That was
Thank you.
love it.
Don't make that face.
And he's the one who said that he doesn't like his jokes. Um, all right. You mentioned it earlier when referencing the Sesterninos rushing out of Phantasmic for Slinky Dog Dash.
Mhm.
Um, and versus, I know a fan favorite among Matt Lagori, the People Mover. Matt, let's
Am
start
I
with
up
you.
first? Oh yeah, bye Slinky. You're too hot. It's way too hot over there. It's a kid's coaster. It's still cute because it's Slinky Dog and it's all the great Toy Story characters all in a great Toy Story land, but it's too hot and it's not the people mover. So that's it.
Yeah. Mel.
Oh, it's People Mover, hands down. Anyone can go on it. Everyone can enjoy it. I went to Disneyland with my grandparents, and they didn't go on any rides with me because they just like couldn't, wasn't for them. But they did do the People Mover, and I remember that being a very core memory. I love to just sit on it
Is
forever
the
on People
People
Mover
Mover
in
closed
Florida
at
now.
Disneyland?
Yes, I think it was like
Okay,
a
It's
because
no
I was
signature
longer
like,
thing.
there.
I
Yeah.
would absolutely have done the People
Yeah.
Mover.
I love it. If they ever change anything about it here or took it away, I would be totally devastated. I love that you also just get a sneak peek in all the rides of Tomorrowland, which is
Mhm.
kind of cool. Slinky Dog, like Matt said, it's hot. It is a really long line that is a cute queue, but it is outdoors, it's hot, and it's long. And the ride itself is like, it's cute. Kids love it.
It's also like 90 seconds, right?
Yeah,
It's
it's a
yeah.
long wait for something very fast. There's other rides that I don't think are worth it more than Slinky Dog. But that's a future combo.
JoFo.
I'm gonna give a vote to Slinky Dog here, just because I do think it's I think it's a nice ride. I mean, I love the People Mover. It holds a very special place in my heart, but I am gonna give a vote to Slinky Dog here. I think one underrated aspect of it is it has a cool mechanism where you like go backwards down a hill before it shoots you back up. Um, it's very cool for like a kid's coaster, a
Yeah.
Disney coaster to do something creative like that. But People Mover, I understand why it's moving through, and I would not be giving Slinky Dog a vote if I were first or second voting here.
You better
Okay.
not have been.
Yeah. The only time I went on Slinky Dog, it was like, California, not California, Florida weather. My brother and I got to the front of the line. It was like the last day there, and we were trying to make sure we hit all the rides we hadn't hit. We were park hopping that day. Got to the front of the line, and then lightning struck. So we were like
Oh.
the next people to go. So then the ride was closed down for 45 minutes, and we just like waited it out. We were like, at this point, we're the first people in line. And then I don't really remember the ride other than that experience.
Huh.
But yeah. Uh, Twilight Zone Tower of Terror versus Kilimanjaro Safari. Let's start with JoFo.
I'm gonna go Kilimanjaro here. It's the only ride where you can guarantee every time you go on it's gonna be different. Um, and especially if you go on it towards first thing in the morning or towards the end of the day where the animals are more active. It's just it's an experience you're not gonna get, you can't get in the US, except if you go on Kilimanjaro safaris. So I am voting through the safari.
Matt.
I am going to as well. I really like the Tower of Terror as a concept, as a Disney entity. Like it's similar to Space Mountain of just like it is so iconic that it exists. Um, the sign out on the road that used to, go up and down somewhere in Florida of the Tower of Terror that has since not only stopped working, but also been taken down. A tragedy of that being the case. But so I'm glad that it still exists. I'm glad that it hasn't been turned into Guardians of the Galaxy in Florida yet, because I think this version of it is like iconic to Disney World. I don't go on it every time because I don't always feel good, but every once in a while I do muster up the courage. And I know Jonathan likes to go on as well. So we did go on the most recent time. But got to go with the safari here. Just whatever experience you may get with the animals, usually is pretty cool. Like, if the giraffe walks up super close to the vehicle, if you get to hear the lions roar, which we did last time, just anything that can happen on there can happen on so many other rides.
Mel, are we sweeping it?
It's a sweep. I love Tower Towers, every bit of theming of it. I think like going into it is amazing. But the ride itself makes me sick. But obviously I've skipped a lot of Animal Kingdom based on what we've discussed so far. However, I always go on the safari. It's the first thing I do, and not just for strategy purposes. I love it. It is different every time. It's why I mentioned I wish I got to do the sunset one. I haven't had that opportunity. I got to experience a stampede last time that they had to shoo them away because they were blocking the road. It's just, this is what Animal Kingdom is about. And I know there are other places you can go walk through and see the animals, but the safari this was the ride of Animal Kingdom. And I enjoy it.
All right. One thing about Tower of Terror, I love that you can kind of see the whole park when you're at like in some of it, like with
Yeah,
the
it is.
window.
It's
That is
very
cool.
cool.
Um, Now, Mel, start us off. People Mover versus Kilimanjaro Safari.
Oh boy. Now that I just had this beautiful talk about Kilimanjaro safaris, that's just like People Mover to me is just perfect. We were talking about like tips and hacks and stuff, is that usually because they'll do like a nighttime parade or fireworks show, usually twice. One of them, I will usually try to go on the People Mover to see it. And you won't get to see all of the show, you only are getting to see some snippets, but it's really cool. Minimally ever has a line, which is a huge perk. I just simply love the People Mover, and the basics of it as things get complicated. But I feel very bad to not let the safari move through because it's incredible. And where do we get to experience that and these animals? Like never, but I just love People Mover.
JoFo.
I'm gonna do it again. And I'm gonna vote for Kilimanjaro here because I know there's no way Matt's not putting the People Mover through. Um, but I mean, I think it's such a unique experience. Um, we went, was it in March when we went, where like we went a second time and like we had a giraffe just right next to us, like literally like feet from us, and it's just you can't get that experience unless you fly across an ocean. Um,
And you can't get a people mover anywhere else.
It's
well,
true.
but anyway, I'm voting for Kilimanjaro Safari for this one because I know it's not going to ultimately matter.
No, it doesn't matter. People mover's going through as far as I can possibly push it, with the help of at least Mel, because Jonathan's obviously being a hater today. I don't even know, like, I don't know. But when it seems like it's possibly a time that it could go out, I'll give my full spiel. But for now, it's just a simple move on.
Um, People Mover is like one of those rides that like as you age, it gets better. It ages like as a
Well,
kid,
yeah,
you
because
probably
we're more tired and we want to relax
You
more.
want it. Again, that's literally the only thing like my grandparents go. My grandfather couldn't be out in the sun, and it was like you could go on the People Mover because it's covered and shaded.
yeah.
Shaded, you can go on in the rain, you can go on in
And again,
any
there's
way.
no like I had to wait in the line for the People Mover the last trip I went, and I was pissed because you don't wait in a line there. And when I did, I was like, what are we doing here? What's going
But I'm
on?
sure it was like 20 minutes. It wasn't like
Yeah,
anything
but enough
crazy.
that I was just like that you knew also that you
Appalled.
can't do that thing where you're like, yeah, that you can be like, do you mind if I just like stay on for a bit? And
Mhm.
also, and I was in a mental space that when I did get to People Mover right before that, they closed Carousel of Progress early. It was like the Christmas party. So I was really in a real like, what are we doing?
That's like a bad day for Mel.
Yeah, it really set the tone for the night of cranky, but thankfully I got to go with my People Mover and I was okay.
Um, let's go back to Matt's favorite professional hater, JoFo, for Toy Story Mania versus DuckTales slash Perry the Platypus slash Kim Possible World Showcase Adventure.
What is
It's the cell phone thing that they like give you, and you have to go like.
Oh, well, okay. This is so
I
much
think I know
easier
what's
then.
gonna get your
Yeah.
Okay.
vote.
I love Toy Story Mania. Matt always wins, and I don't like that aspect of it, but I love Toy Story Mania. I love a good game that you can just go on. I don't like the spinning on it. The spinning is not for me. It's unnecessary. I don't know why they do that to us, but I love the game aspect of Toy Story Mania, so that's what wins for me.
Matt,
Same here. I don't even know what the other thing is. I know that there's like games around Epcot. I don't even know if this is an active one or not, but
it's
Toy Story
currently
Mania.
DuckTales. My favorite was the Perry the Platypus version, but they just like give you a cell phone and then you have to like it's like you go around each country
Yeah.
and like a little mystery thing. Mel.
Yeah, it's Toy Story Mania. I think I've done some of the other things in the parks, and I don't know if it's on here eventually. Like I've done Keys to the Kingdom before. Not Key,
Oh,
what
Sources of the Magic Kingdom.
Source of the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah,
I did that as a thing
that is
once because it was
defunct. I
simply, yeah, it's defunct. I have a couple cards around still. It was simply that because the reason to do that is when the lines are so long, there's literally nothing else to do, and that's why I did the other one. I haven't done this one. I'd rather do the thing where you do like the cookie tour and I spend like $80 eating around the world. Toy Story Mania, super fun. I am mid at it, but I really have fun doing it each time.
You're,
And I remember I bought the Wii game at home, so
I do
clearly
have the
it had
Wii
an
games.
impact.
You're mid at the Toy Story Midway Mania.
Yeah. I'm getting better, but it is I do find it to be an exhausting ride afterwards. That simply I'm gonna have like carpal tunnel for a few hours to have to recover from.
Mhm. Yeah, so that moves on. Then we have a ride that I don't believe will be popular here since we don't like spinning, but Primeval Whirl versus Spaceship Earth. Matt, why don't you start us off?
Um, I almost feel like all three of us could pretty collectively just move Spaceship Earth along
Yeah, is this
Yeah.
gonna be
then
sweep?
Move this
have
quickly.
the
We
Toy Story
know.
conversation.
Yeah,
Are we all on the same page?
Yeah.
everyone
Okay,
Primeval
good.
I
World is
do.
when we talk about uncomfortable rides, Primeval World is physically the most uncomfortable ride on Disney property, and I will stand on that. And that I'm glad it is down. I wish I could take a
Yeah.
bolt off of it myself.
Well,
I,
JoFo,
I
do you have
he's
I
he's not
I
defending Primeval Whirl. He's defending a
I
different
love
ride.
Mulholland Madness and Goofy Sky School. I love it.
I like
I
Goofy Sky School, but Primeval World does not feel like Goofy Sky.
I
It
never went on Primeval Whirl,
hurts.
so and I thought it was
It
this.
it hurt. It is. I don't know what it was. I was my friend. You are slamming into each other. It is
Yeah.
gravity pulling you. It is so uncomfortable. I
Who's
love
old?
Goofy Sky School. I think it's delightful, but I usually go on that like solo. But
Yeah,
So
that's cute. Primeval World sucks and it looks
but I am voting
janky, which I know
for
is part of
Spaceship
it.
Earth through.
yeah,
yeah,
same.
rest in peace, Primeval Whirl and Dinosaur
As a
Land.
kid, I loved
Yeah.
Primeval Whirl, but oh wait, I messed up my notes. But okay,
So yeah,
Toy Story versus Spaceship Earth. Matt, why don't you start us off then?
that is tough. Toy Story Mania is so much fun. The game aspect is fun. I wish everybody could come off the ride, enjoying their experience and not just the person who won. Because it's a fun ride. I want everybody to have fun. Um, but Spaceship Earth is always like it's like the same kind of like classic that like a people mover is, not to the exact same extent and same love that I have for it, but just like I'm always going to want to go on Spaceship Earth and just go up in the Epcot ball and go through the story and see all of the legends that are sitting and standing in the in the story of that, and then go backwards and hope that my picture shows up because it probably didn't. All of that charm that Spaceship Earth has, but there's a reason that Spaceship Earth is like, very prime for a refurbishment or an over like just a new version of it that they were teasing that they were going to do and never actually did. It could use some upgrades. The ride system itself is pretty janky at this point. It kind of jerks you around as you go up because it's so old. It's still great, but I think if I could only keep one, I probably would go Toy Story Mania. It still is just more fun.
All right, Mel.
I'm voting for Spaceship Earth. I love it so much. I do completely agree though that it needs work, but here's my concern is it needs work on half of it. And then the other half I don't want it touched. And I am very concerned that like when they touch it, as they were talking about doing, that they're going to like fix the front half. I also love Dame Judi Dench's narration. But the video thing at the end is terrible. And like the back half is just like lights very slowly coming down. I wish that they had some more animatronics or something else there. But for me, like I go on Spaceship Earth as much as again, because it usually doesn't have a line. I go on it over and over and over. I can repeat it. Last time I didn't realize I wanted to practice my French skills and I chose that and I didn't realize that that impacts your entire ride. And that all the narration is in that language. But what I think is cool about that is just how inclusive a ride it is, that for people around the world, they can all experience Spaceship Earth or like with a language closer to most of them. But I do hate that stuff at the end. But the beginning, I think about those history things a lot. I quote them often. It's how I know about the Phoenicians, you know?
Yeah. Now, JoFo, you gotta cast the tiebreaker.
So I'm going to defend my honor on Toy Story Mania here for a little bit. I always have better accuracy than Matt, and it's always in that last round that he pulls ahead, where it's just like shooting it directly at the target in front of you, because he has better speed than I do. But I have the better hand eye anyway. Um, I think it's similar to what we were talking about earlier with Space Mountain, how it's like the iconic part you think of when you think of Magic Kingdom or Disneyland or something like that. Spaceship Earth is the Epcot logo. Now, I guess how much of that is the structure of it versus the actual ride inside of it, I guess is something to be thinking about. Um, but ultimately, I think I'm sending through Spaceship Earth here, just given its iconic nature.
I'm
All
not upset
right.
about this at all, by the way. I think both are very worthy competitors to go
Yeah,
through.
I
Yeah.
really
And
enjoy I enjoy Toy Story Mania. I think it's fun and I think it's an easier one also to refurb because you can add new games. And I do enjoy it. I just wish I could win. But I usually do pretty usually you just have like a couple rounds where like you'll do want like certain ones are better than others. And I really like when the interactive element to it too, which is like if you hit certain things, it blows air at you, so you can kind of mess with
yeah,
people. I think it's a delightful ride. I think the con is that it always has a line. So like you can probably only go on it once or twice a day versus if you want to go on Spaceship Earth 38 times, you can because the line's not
Yeah.
that long.
Spaceship Earth is a great like start to Epcot ride, like first ride of the day vibe. Get a little history lesson in there. Mel, two of your faves, the People Mover versus
Oh my
Spaceship Earth.
God. This is like I feel like betraying the universe choosing between them. Um, So I think I'm gonna go with Spaceship Earth here. I just really love it. I love animatronics. Like I am a sucker for them. I love the People Mover. I think it's so calm and peaceful and serene, and it has beautiful views. But ultimately, like if we go on a ride, I want to see some animatronics. I like the learning or the aspect and listening to James Duty Dench talk. And when you get to that point at the end, at the top, when you hit the tippy top, and it's like this Spaceship Earth, it still takes my breath away every single time. Um, so I have to give it to Spaceship Earth.
Um, JoFo, where are we leaning here? Or should I
I'm
save
gonna
you
redeem.
for the
I'm gonna
last?
no, I'm gonna redeem
Mhm.
myself here, and I'm gonna put the People Mover through.
All
Um,
right.
I do
Mhm.
think, I haven't voted for it yet, but it is ultimately just it's an incredible ride. It's a nice time to just take a seat and actually still have an enjoyable experience moving through all the different parts of Tomorrowland. Um, and as much as Spaceship Earth is an icon of Epcot, it's just it needs work. So I'm putting the People Mover through.
Matt, I think I know where you're going, but
you do. Yeah, no. So I mean, I guess now's the time because I lost Mel on a people mover vote, so I have to get the pitch back in here. Which I don't need to pitch to Mel. She knows how great the ride is as
Yeah,
well. But
there was no wrong one in this bracket, I'll tell you.
it's yeah, no, it's just like you know when you're in Disney, you want to go. You want to be moving, you want to be doing rides, you want to feel like you're always doing something. And like the People Mover is such a great like if I'm too tired to walk across the park right now, if I'm too tired to do anything else and I just want to sit down for a little bit and still be on a ride and still feel like I'm experiencing something in Disney World, I can go on the People Mover, I can mobile order my next meal, I can look at the show times, and I can go on it again afterwards if I still want to sit down for another half hour and not just sit at a table in the sun and just be on a fun ride that, as we said earlier, it moves through a bunch of the different Tomorrowland buildings, so you get to see a little peek inside Space Mountain and the queue there and the
When they were
ride.
building Tron, it was so exciting.
You got to see Tron. You got to see, you get to go as close to the Tomorrowland Speedway as you probably want to without actually going on the ride because it's a bad ride. So there's just so many different elements of why it is a great ride for all, let alone just, for me. So going through.
awesome.
So People
Now,
Mover versus what? Frozen?
Frozen, yeah.
Yeah,
So you want to start, Matt?
People Mover. Frozen's great, but yeah, People Mover.
Mel,
People Mover.
JoFo?
People Mover.
All right. Now I let me start with Matt here for People
Yeah,
Mover
this is where
versus
it gets really
Phantasmic.
tricky.
Make him pick
Actually, I
between his
think it might be
children.
interesting if you let one of them be the tiebreaker because my vote is for People Mover.
Okay.
And I
Uh,
think that me being at the end could be anticlimactic. But I love, like, again, I love Phantasmic. I think it's great. But for me, can't miss People Mover. And like Matt said, it hits everything. It's really nice. It is peaceful. And the hard part for, like, I've talked a bit about like how I enjoy Universal, but my issue with Universal is I feel as a whole park is that it has a shelf life for a person that eventually there's going to be an age that I can't do anything there. People Mover is a ride that literally every single person who goes through those gates, from that bitty infant that I can't believe somebody had to bring to the park, to your 150-year-old grandmother who is still coming on the rides, everybody can do People Mover. And everybody can do Phantasmic too, but it's a little loud for them. But People Mover is a ride. and we come for rides the most. Well, for me.
All right.
I
Matt.
don't want to go next. I don't.
Okay, JoFo.
I think I'm going Phantasmic here. Phantasmic does have some downsides. I think the villains part of the show kind of drags a little bit. If I'm being completely honest, the beginning and the ending are definitely the highlights of Phantasmic. Um, but I do think it shows the show, the music, the performances. I think I'm putting Phantasmic through.
All right, Matt.
It's People Mover. And I think really, are you
Upset
surprised?
of the century.
You're
I think
I'm
these
surprised?
are, it's just,
surprised.
I think it's just both of these are things that I think of like synonymously with you. So I guess maybe just finally having like an answer between them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's People Mover. I think that there could be a world where a Phantasmic shut down tomorrow that we get a incredible new nighttime show in some capacity, and I would be so sad to mourn Phantasmic. But having already lost People Mover from Disneyland, which I never got to experience because I never went there when it existed, it's like, and People Mover was down for a while around when COVID was happening. It shut down before COVID and then just did not come back right when the parks reopened, and it was down for a year. And I was in that group of a lot of people really concerned that maybe it just was never coming back. And Disney just would not be the same to me without getting to go to the Magic Kingdom and get on the People Mover once, two, three times a day, multiple times a trip, and just how it's there's trains at a lot of parks. Magic Kingdom itself has its own train. That's not the same thing.
yeah.
It's different. It's fun. It's special. It's my favorite. And now you have an answer.
Awesome. Does anyone want to take like a quick break before we go back to the second half, or
I almost wonder if
Uh,
we do it a different day or something. I don't know. Just
I'm
it's
what do you all
wondering.
this took
think?
a while.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
I'm happy
that
to
way we
do.
can talk it out because then the next one would be
Super
rushed. And
speedy.
I think we've had
Yeah,
like a good time talking them through them.
Yeah.
And I want to rush it
just
because yeah. What's on the next one again, out of
the next one.
curiosity?
See, we can
Not that I
just.
want to
I'm
study
I'm
too
gonna go
deep.
through everything quickly, but then
Yeah.
we'll like talk about it. So the next one will be for
Oh my God,
Illuminations
even right
of
off the
Earth,
bat.
Rise of the Resistance, Smuggler's Run, Splash Mountain slash Tiana's Bayou Adventure, Rock and Roller Coaster with Aerosmith, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dumbo slash Magic
Yeah,
Carpets.
we're
Like
not going to want to
all
rush through these. These are like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
these are some
Yeah.
real,
Test
and
Track,
some of these
Magic.
already, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, how am I going to
Yeah, so
choose?
we got some good ones here. Like if you're stressing out that your favorite ride didn't make it to this part of the bracket, it will be on the second half probably. I cannot wait to talk about It's Tough to Be a Bug with Mel. I'm curious about. I told Mel I
I
think
have done, I
she
will say, I've skipped a lot there. I have done, it's tough to be a bug.
I just
I feel
saw the
like
Living with the Land versus Muppet Vision matchup in the first round, and that is rude.
I see. I
Dude, some of
thought
these are
Mel
real
was gonna have an
doozies.
aneurysm when I had that. That's the randomizer.
No, there are
Blame.
some other ones I think that are, I will say, tougher. I think I actually do have an answer for that. Won't say what. But there
Yeah,
are some on here where I'm like, wow, it's just like some of these are just so many heavy hitters. It's like, oh, there's some tricky stuff here.
yeah.
And if not, I just have like a lot of memories of things. So I think of that too, where I see like Ellen's universe of energy. And it's not necessarily them like, oh, what a banger of a ride. It's just like, oh, remember that
Yeah.
ride?
Yeah, I'm excited to get to part two and see what faces the people mover in the final matchup. But yeah, we can do this as a two-part episode, if that's better with you all, because yeah, we've been here for a minute. In terms of where the people can keep up with you, let's just do plugs just in case I make this two separate episodes instead of one big combined episode that I edit together later. So who wants to start? Let's go with Mel.
You can follow me all social media platforms at Mel Got Served.
Love it. JoFo, where can the good people of the world keep up with you?
Mostly you can find me on Letterboxd. I'm at JoFo322 if you're also a movie boy or girl like me.
Or them?
Um, or person. Um, and yeah, so that's gonna be the main place to find me.
Yes. And Matt, I want to say it again, loving the diary room, but tell
Oh,
people
thank you.
where they can keep up with that and everything you're doing.
Yeah, Diary Room's been a lot of fun. If you like brackets, you'll like that one. If you also like Big Brother, where Amon, Adwin, and I are trying to find the best Big Brother player of all time. We're not doing it in one episode or two episodes. We're doing it over the course of a couple of years. So that's been fun over at the Diary Room. of course, covering the challenge over on the Free Agents podcast with Brian Scally, and both Mel and Jonathan pop in from time to time to do some drafts. Felipe, do you watch the challenge?
I tangentially follow the challenge these days. I will dabble. I watch the All-Stars, but
Okay,
I don't have MTV and it's too complicated to figure out. So I will like
Yeah,
look
it's
understandable.
on
not easy to
Twitter.
stream anywhere. They have made it one of
And
the
same
worst
with Drag
ways to
Race.
not
That's
subscribe to
the same
cable to
thing.
watch a show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
understandable.
but I used to watch the challenge like religiously, and then I kind of fell off around the pandemic, when like cable was not as interesting to my parents, and
Hmm.
them moving out here, it's just not worth it. But I do watch the All-Star seasons that they put on the Paramount Plus, and I follow tangentially through like podcasts and Twitter, and so love um love some of them. A lot of my faves don't always stay my faves on this show, on the
Fair
challenge.
enough.
And if you thought some of these matchups were hard, like the World Showcase versus Space Mountain, you should listen to the Diary Room as well, because those matchups can sometimes be very difficult. Lisa versus Janelle, that was one that stood out recently. I was with
Hmm.
Matt though. I think I was Team
Oh,
Lisa this
that
year.
was easy.
Yeah.
It's tough because it's a legend you got to say
Yeah.
goodbye to, but it was easy enough.
Honestly, like the
So
Christine Michelle one was actually really hard for me. I was like,
I know,
this one, that one. But anyways, in
they're only
terms
gonna
of
get
me, you
harder.
can listen to Brazilian Dragon on all platforms. You can also rate, review if you feel like it on all platforms. And feel free to check me out on social media at What the Fleep. The Brazilian Dragon is the Instagram page where I'm posting all the podcast update. And if you are so inclined, we have a Patreon, Brazilian Dragon Productions. And yeah, until next time with part 2 of this bracket, obrigado for listening. Goodbye.